He was the iron-fisted king who unified the continent. He was the last survivor of the winged dragons. This should have been a story about the bitter feud between two titans. But she, a little hamster demon who'd been working in the demon palace kitchens, accidentally stumbled onto the wrong stage. From then on, every answer was a matter of life and death. And every promotion came with a crystal-clear price. It seemed like she was escaping one deadly trap, only to fall step by step into his. Rebecca suddenly received a notice for a promotion and a raise. Just as she was giddy with excitement, thinking she'd finally made it, the job title on the notice struck her heart like a sledgehammer. His Majesty the Demon King's personal maid. Everyone knew the stories about Demon King Abrumt. He took the throne at 10, and in just 10 years he unified the fractured Dark Domain, and slaughtered the entire Winged Dragon clan, becoming the most powerful being on the Slot continent. Even more terrifying, he had also eliminated his own mother and his sister's entire family. For a tyrant whose hands were stained with so much blood, just surviving under his rule was a miracle, let alone working for him. Filled with dread, Rebecca begged the head chef to let her stay. But the chef just smiled and coaxed her, "Take a look at the salary and benefits before you decide. Paid vacations, a triple year-end bonus, and they'd even solve her housing and residency issues." It was the dream benefits package for any working person. Tempted by the money and the chance to reunite with her family, Rebecca finally gritted her teeth and accepted the job. That seemed like a golden opportunity on the surface, but was fraught with peril. With a heart full of unease, Rebecca arrived at the Demon King's chambers. The headmaid shoved a broom into her hands and commanded coldly, "Go and sweep the Phoenix Hall." Rebecca's heart tightened. She hesitated, having heard that the Phoenix Hall was a forbidden area. Seeing her reluctance, the headmaid said snidely, "The head chef told me you were a hard worker. Why are you already trying to get out of your first task?" The others around them chimed in with agreement. Not wanting to make a bad impression on her first day, Rebecca had no choice but to brace herself and agree. As she walked away, the others began to whisper, "I heard the most vicious prisoners of war are locked up in the Phoenix Hall, especially on the lowest level, where they're holding someone of unknown identity. Anyone who's ever broken into the Phoenix Hall has ended up either dead or crippled." The moment Rebecca stepped into the hall, she knew something was wrong. Suddenly, a powerful dark energy shot through her body, followed by the tragic wails of countless resentful spirits echoing through the air. Rebecca struggled desperately, not wanting to die so senselessly here. Just then, she felt something approaching from behind, and terror instantly consumed her. In her panic, a hand reached out from the darkness and shoved her violently down to the lowest level. Rebecca forced her eyes open, enduring the excruciating pain in her body. What she saw was a man with white hair, pointed ears, and a large pair of wings on his back. His limbs were bound tightly by thick iron chains, and he radiated a mysterious and dangerous aura. Rebecca's heart jolted. A winged dragon! But weren't they all slaughtered by the Demon King? The man's powerful presence made Rebecca tremble in fear, but he was completely different from the malicious spirits outside. He might be her only hope of survival. But that hope instantly turned to terror. The winged dragon's thick tail lashed out like black lightning, coiling tightly around Rebecca. The tail tightened its grip, squeezing her neck. Rebecca gasped for air as the fear of death washed over her. She struggled, begging the winged dragon to let her go, but her pleas were met with cold silence. Rebecca cautiously looked up and noticed the winged dragon was injured, his wound still bleeding. For some reason, a wave of pity washed over her. The strange thought barely registered before the winged dragon's lips curved into a slight smirk. "You're just another piece of trash thrown in here." "That's not it," Rebecca quickly explained, her voice hoarse from fear and suffocation. "I'm the Demon King's personal maid. Today was my first day, and the other maids tricked me into coming here." Hearing this, a sly smile touched the winged dragon's lips, as if he'd heard something amusing. He then released his tail from her neck. Rebecca gasped for breath, the relief barely settling in before she heard the winged dragon's deep voice again. "Little thing, I can save you." Rebecca felt a wave of relief, but before she could celebrate, the winged dragon added slowly, "But I won't save you for free. Are you willing?" Rebecca knew this could be a deal with the devil, but she had no other way out. Her only choice was to cling to this lifeline. She nodded eagerly. The winged dragon suddenly leaned in and pressed his lips to hers. The taste of blood filled her mouth. A powerful intuition told Rebecca that from this moment on, their fates were intertwined. Meanwhile, Rebecca was called to attend to the Demon King's bath, but she was nowhere to be found. The headmaid panicked and immediately played the victim. "Rebecca slipped into the Phoenix Hall when we weren't looking." Just as she finished speaking, Rebecca rushed before the crowd. "Sorry, I'm late." Everyone stared, dumbfounded, unable to believe she had emerged from the Phoenix Hall completely unharmed. The head maid, worried Rebecca would expose her to the king, quickly warned her to watch her mouth. Rebecca smiled back, a flicker of defiance in her eyes. "I'll handle it." A short while later, Rebecca and 2 other maids were led into the Demon King's chambers. Rebecca felt like her luck had run out. She'd just escaped the dragon's den, and now she was walking into the tiger's lair. Soon a guard signaled for them to stop. He went ahead to report to the king. "Your Majesty, they've been brought." A powerful and terrifying aura washed over them. Rebecca's heart pounded, and she instinctively lowered her head, not daring to look up. "Among the 3 of you, there is a traitor." The Demon King's voice was bone-chillingly cold. Rebecca's mind went blank, her heart hammering in her chest. The Demon King, sword in hand, approached her step by step. He reached out, lifted her chin, and asked coldly, "You're the new one, Rebecca?" Rebecca trembled with fear, her mind racing. "Did he find out about my deal with the winged dragon?" "The dragon needs a strand of the Demon King's hair within 2 days, or I'll die for sure." Before Rebecca could process her panic, the sharp sound of a sword swinging cut through the silence. She slowly turned her head in horror to see a warm spray of red splatter across the cold floor. The smell of blood quickly filled the air. Rebecca's legs gave out and she collapsed to the ground. Jiali was secretly communicating with the second prince of the Grey Wolf clan, passing him information about His Majesty. The sentence is death by 1,000 cuts. Having witnessed such a grisly scene firsthand, Rebecca was completely stunned. But the Demon King just smiled playfully, giving her no time to recover. "Time for my bath," he commanded. Rebecca cursed her fate internally but didn't dare disobey, only managing to squeak out a reply. Today she really might die over a single strand of hair. After all, the Demon King in front of her was 100 times more ruthless than she had ever imagined. In a flash, the Demon King had shed his clothes and was leisurely soaking in the bath. A glimmer of hope appeared in Rebecca's eyes. Maybe there was a stray hair on his clothes. She searched them inside and out 108 times, but found nothing. Refusing to give up, she suppressed her fear, put on a calm front, and stepped forward to help the Demon King wash his hair. She figured that if her own hair fell out most when she washed it, maybe his would too. But just when she thought she was about to succeed, she discovered that the Demon King's godlike hair was so perfect that not a single strand came loose. Rebecca was frantic. The dragon had only given her 2 days. Time was running out. A bold idea popped into her head. Just yank it out. While she was weighing her options, the Demon King's cold voice spoke again. "I heard you and she are from the same town and are usually quite close." Before he finished his sentence, he had the other maid by the throat. "Which means you are also suspected of knowing and not reporting." Rebecca watched in horror, knowing full well the Demon King was a ruthless madman. He hadn't even spared his own sister or his underage nephew when they crossed him. He was like a suspicious black mamba, ready to kill anyone he doubted without hesitation. A complex mix of emotions washed over Rebecca. On one hand, this was a perfect opportunity to steal the hair. On the other, she couldn't bear to watch someone die. In that life-or-death moment, she took a deep breath, dropped to her knees with a thud, and pleaded for the maid in a trembling voice. "Please, please spare her, Your Majesty. If you suspect her, you can banish her from the palace, but please don't kill her." The Demon King glared at Rebecca. "Are you her accomplice?" Rebecca was stunned, then frantically denied it, distancing herself while continuing to speak for the maid. "Because she's just like me. Just an ordinary person trying to make a living under you, hoping to save enough money to go home and be with her parents. Your Majesty, even someone as high and mighty as you must have people you care for, people you hope will return, right? Please don't destroy a family and plunge them into despair over a mere suspicion. Please spare her life." Rebecca had dared to speak so bluntly to the almighty Demon King. For a moment, the entire chamber fell silent, and everyone held their breath for her. The Demon King's face darkened. With a cold snort and a flick of his wrist, he sent the maid flying 10 feet away. "Get out!" The Demon King's icy voice echoed through the hall. The maid scrambled to her feet and fled. Rebecca quickly knelt to thank the Demon King, then moved to help him with his robe. But in a cruel twist of fate, her foot slipped on a bar of soap, sending her flying uncontrollably toward the Demon King. At the last second, the Demon King sidestepped, and Rebecca plunged headfirst into the steaming bath. Splash! She even managed to swallow a few mouthfuls of the king's bathwater. The Demon King just spoke coldly, telling her to learn her lesson. A guard understood immediately, responding, "Yes, sir." Rebecca had narrowly escaped the Demon King's wrath, and she secretly rejoiced at the few strands of hair she'd managed to grab. But her happiness lasted only 2 seconds before a bucket of cold water was dumped on her head, figuratively. For bumping into the Demon King, Rebecca was sentenced to 3 days in solitary confinement as a warning. The deadline with the winged dragon was now just 1 hour away. Trapped in the small, dark room, Rebecca looked at the single tiny window and had an idea. It seems the only way out is to change back to my original form. With a shake, she transformed back into an adorable little hamster. She scrambled with all her might, climbing out of the window and finally escaping the room. Ha ha ha, I'm free! But just as she was celebrating, a blinding blue light flashed, and a powerful force threw her back, sending her face planting into the dirt. A guard then picked her up like a baby chick. The little hamster trembled in fear, blinking her big, innocent eyes and begging for mercy. But the guard was unmoved. With a wave of his hand, she was tossed back into the little black room. Sob. There's a barrier, I can't get out. Just then a sharp pain shot through Rebecca's body, as if she were being pierced by 1,000 needles and torn to shreds in a blazing fire. Is this what the winged dragon meant by "you won't escape death"? In less than a second, her body began to dissipate, turning into specks of light until she vanished completely, leaving only the empty silence of the little black room. In the dark prison, the Dragon King's anticipation had turned to disappointment. As I thought, another useless one. Just then, Rebecca materialized right in front of him. The Dragon King's pupils constricted. He never would have imagined that the girl would appear before him, alive and well. Rebecca's voice trembled with pain. Save me, please, save me. She felt a strange sensation. A mysterious and deadly aura emanated from the man before her, an aura that made her blood boil. An unprecedented craving rose from the depths of her soul and instantly took control of her entire body. She uncontrollably grabbed the Dragon King's arm, opened her mouth and bit down almost crazily, drinking his blood like a starving woman. As the blood flowed down her throat, her consciousness gradually returned, and the sharp pain in her body receded like a tide. When she was fully lucid again, she was horrified to find the Dragon King's handsome, cold face just inches from hers, while her hand was still clutching his bleeding arm. Enough, want some more? The Dragon King's voice was deep and chilly. Rebecca jolted as if electrocuted and let go of his arm. I'm sorry. She couldn't understand why she had done something so bold and crazy. The Dragon King glanced down at the clear, savage bite mark, a meaningful smile slowly forming on his lips. Rebecca was filled with fear, silently praying the Dragon King would spare her. Just then, his cold voice sounded again. That day, as you were dying, I placed my dragon core inside you. While it temporarily sustained your life, the dragon core needs dragon blood to nourish it. Otherwise, after 2 days, it will burn through your flesh and blood before returning to my body. A flicker of confusion crossed the Dragon King's eyes. He truly didn't understand why the dragon core hadn't killed this girl, and had instead brought her here. But she had certainly managed to pique his interest, and he looked forward to seeing what she would do next. Hearing the Dragon King's explanation, Rebecca instantly understood from now on she had to rely on his blood to live. The Dragon King promised that as long as she did his bidding, he'd provide all the dragon blood she needed. Rebecca hesitated. Betraying the Demon King was also a death sentence, and with his skill set, she'd probably be killed off in 2 chapters. At this thought, Rebecca cursed the heavens for dragging her into this mess. But the Dragon King wasn't finished. He threw out another lure. Do one more thing for me, and I'll make the dragon core permanently stable within your body. Rebecca looked back at him warily. Really? The Dragon King let out a cold laugh. My dragon core has an ability no one knows about. Using the Demon King's hair as a medium, you can enter his dreams. Rebecca's heart sank. What? Enter His Majesty's dreams? That's right. I want you to go into his dreams and find my reverse scale. Rebecca looked at the Dragon King's wound, and a pang of sympathy shot through her. But her rational mind quickly took over. The Dragon King had done too many evil things, which is why the Demon King had stripped him of his scales. He didn't deserve her pity. This was supposed to be a fight between 2 powerful figures, so why was a small fry like her caught in the middle? The more she thought about it, the more unfair it seemed, and she couldn't help but shout, I don't want to go, I don't want to die. Hearing this, the Dragon King threatened to take back the dragon core inside her, which would kill her instantly. He looked Rebecca up and down, a playful glint in his eyes. You're well endowed and have a certain aesthetic value. To save her own skin, Rebecca clung to this lifeline the Dragon King had thrown her and promised, I'll get the mission done. The Dragon King nodded in satisfaction. Once the dream ends, the dragon core will erase the Demon King's memory of it. You'll be safe in the real world. Rebecca was full of questions, but before she could ask how to do it, the Dragon King cut her off. The dragon core will go into the dream with you. Just follow its instructions. With that, he glanced at his own bleeding arm and leaned in close to Rebecca's ear, whispering with a low chuckle, "Next time, you'll have to trade the location of my reverse scale for my blood." Before she could react, he waved his hand, and a giant magic circle appeared out of thin air, glowing with a mysterious and dangerous light. Rebecca wasn't even mentally prepared. Before the Dragon King shoved her into the center of the array, the world spun, and when she came to, she was in a boundless dark space. Countless sharp sword shadows rained down on her like deadly shooting stars. Rebecca's eyes widened in terror. She dodged left and right, desperately trying to escape the terrifying assault. But no matter how hard she tried, she seemed to be trapped in an invisible cage. Just as she was about to give up, the Dragon Core's voice appeared. "This is the border of the Demon King's consciousness. His defensive awareness has taken the form of this sword rain to block intruders. But don't worry, you're only here in your conscious form. You'll feel pain, but you won't actually get hurt." The pain alone was enough to kill Rebecca. She worried that if the Demon King didn't dream, she would suffer for nothing. The Dragon Core prompted, "Actually, in the consciousness space, you can create things with your imagination. Why don't you try to make an umbrella to block them?" Rebecca's eyes lit up. She quickly closed her eyes and let her imagination run wild. But when she opened them with anticipation, the result was the same. She had manifested absolutely nothing. "Useless! You're hopeless!" The Dragon Core scolded, frustrated. Just then, the entire consciousness space vibrated violently. The Dragon Core's expression changed. "The Demon King is dreaming. I can't manifest in the dream itself, so I'm out of here." The next second, Rebecca felt a powerful suction pull her into another space. When she got her bearings, she found herself dressed in a nurse's uniform in a magnificent bedchamber. Moonlight streamed through the window, casting a hazy silhouette on the floor. Rebecca's heart pounded as she thought, "Is that the Demon King?" In a dream, everything is constructed by the Demon King's consciousness, including your appearance. The Dragon Core's voice chimed in at the perfect moment. Rebecca's heart sank. A bedchamber in the middle of the night. A man and a woman alone. A nurse's uniform. Her cheeks flushed, and she couldn't help but complain in her head. "This Demon King is into some kinky stuff. Is this going to be a spicy dream?" The thought that she might be about to experience her first ever workplace sexual harassment sent Rebecca running for the door. But the moment she took a step, the door slammed shut. Rebecca took a deep breath, telling herself, "It's a dream, it's all fake." She cautiously tiptoed to the Demon King's bed, only to find a cute little boy. "Big sis, where are you giving me the shot today?" Rebecca was completely bewildered. It was the Demon King a second ago. How did he suddenly change? Bold idea popped into her head, but she decided to confirm his identity first. She asked in a professional tone, "Little one, what's your name?" The little boy blinked his big eyes. "Nurse Sis, what's wrong with you? I'm Crown Prince Abramt." Rebecca instantly melted. "He's so cute," she thought. At the same time, she was relieved. The pre-10-year-old Demon King should be easy to handle. Remembering that the Dragon Core said the dream would erase his memories, Rebecca figured she could do whatever she wanted. First, she was going to pamper him rotten. Rebecca scooped up the adorable little Demon King and snuggled him, then playfully threatened, "Big sis is going to give you a shot in the butt." But to her surprise, the little Demon King obediently turned over and presented his little bottom. This completely threw Rebecca off. Weren't kids supposed to cry and scream when they get shots? The little king bit his lip, holding back the pain, and even smiled afterward, saying, "Thank you, Nurse Sis." Seeing how pitiful and cute he was, Rebecca felt a pang of guilt. She shouldn't have treated a child like this. She took out a handkerchief, gently wiped the tears from the corner of his eye, and said softly, "A piece of candy after a shot makes the pain go away. How about Big Sis gives you one?" The little king's eyes lit up at the mention of candy, his smile wider than she could have imagined. "Big Sis, you're the best." Rebecca tried the method the Dragon Core had taught her, attempting to conjure a piece of candy out of thin air. After 49 tries, she still came up with nothing. Seeing the hopeful look in the little king's eyes, she couldn't bear to disappoint him. A sudden idea struck her. She took his hand and said, "Big Sis doesn't have any candy right now, so let's use this instead." Then she carefully began to draw in the palm of his hand. The little king watched Rebecca's focused expression, his heart inexplicably speeding up. Before he knew it, the little king had grown into the Demon King. Rebecca finished drawing the candy and promised to give him a real one next time. But when she looked up and saw the tall, imposing Demon King before her, she froze and instinctively jumped back 10 feet, stammering, Your Majesty!" She was freaking out. What is going on? Is this some kind of magic trick? Meanwhile, the Demon King stared at his palm, wondering, why does this little drawing of a candy stir such a strange feeling inside me? The Demon King's gloomy face suddenly broke into a brilliant smile. Rebecca froze. She never thought the Demon King could have such a gentle expression. The king flexed, admiring his now muscular body. "Big sis, your medicine is amazing. I've become so much stronger. I'm not afraid of those old ministers who give me trouble anymore." Rebecca instantly realized what had happened. The medicine was a growth accelerant, and the Demon King's mind was probably still stuck at 10 years old. Before she could process this, the king turned into an affectionate puppy and threw himself into her arms. Big sis, I want to sleep with you." Rebecca panicked, especially when she noticed her nurse's uniform had somehow turned into a sexy little nightgown. Just as she was about to refuse, the Dragon Core's urgent voice sounded in her head. "Agree! This is the perfect chance to find out where the reverse scale is." With no other choice, Rebecca had to agree. The Demon King, like a gentle giant dog, hugged his big sis and peacefully fell asleep. In the quiet room, only the sound of their 2 heartbeats could be heard. Rebecca's brain was practically short-circuiting. Looking at the king's pure, innocent face, an indescribable feeling began to grow in her heart. The king murmured softly, "Big sis, tomorrow is my coronation. I'm so scared I can't sleep." Rebecca subconsciously comforted him. "Don't worry, sleep well. I'm here with you, your highness." But the king suddenly opened his eyes, his gaze fixed on Rebecca. "Big sis, look at me now. Do you think I can intimidate those people tomorrow?" As he spoke, he furrowed his brows and pursed his lips into a stern line, trying his best to look cold and imposing. But his youthful face only made him look more adorable, completely capturing Rebecca's heart. "Your body has grown, but your mannerisms are still a bit childish." "Then what should I do? Big sis, hurry and teach me." Rebecca then began to demonstrate, mimicking the fierce and terrifying demeanor she remembered the Demon King usually had. Suddenly, she felt a grip on her neck, as the Demon King flipped her over and pinned her to the bed. A bloodthirsty glint flashed in his eyes as he growled, "Woman, you dare to climb into the king's bed? You're courting death." Rebecca was terrified, thinking her life was over. But the next second, the king let go and grinned at her. "Big sis, how was I? Was that good?" Rebecca could only manage a wry smile. A natural talent. Looking at the Demon King before her, she couldn't help but feel a wave of pity. At such a young age, he had to pretend to be an adult, fighting for his place among a pack of wolves. She reached out and ruffled his hair, comforting him softly. "You can do it. You'll be a great king one day." The king was overjoyed by her words. He slowly leaned in and gave her a gentle kiss on the cheek. "Big sis tastes sweeter than candy." Rebecca's mind went blank, her heart pounding uncontrollably. When she came to her senses, the king's devastatingly handsome face was just inches from hers. "Oh my god, I was just kissed by a bloodthirsty tyrant," she thought, panicking. No, he's just a kid right now." "Big sis, I have a present for you," the king said. He handed her a delicate box. "This is for you." Rebecca composed herself and took the gift with a smile. She opened it to find a cute hamster-shaped hair clip. It looked familiar, but before she could figure out why, the king was in front of her, gently pinning it in her hair. "I knew it. This clip suits you best, big sis. You're so beautiful." Rebecca's cheeks burned. Is he confessing to me? The Demon King in the dream seems different. The hamster's mission to find the reverse scale was a failure. But not only did the Dragon King not kill her, he praised her for a job well done. His strange reaction scared Rebecca so much she backed away 10 feet. "I failed the mission. Are you going to take back the Dragon Core?" But the Dragon King just shook his head and said slowly, "I've tried to enter the Demon King's dreams myself, but I was always repelled by his defensive consciousness." He looked at Rebecca. "Through the Dragon Core, I could feel that you moved freely in his dream. That means the Demon King trusts you." Rebecca found this unbelievable. "Me? A nobody? The Demon King trusts me?" But the Dragon King continued, "On your first time in his dream, you got the Demon King to reveal a secret. A few more times, and we might just get our hands on that reverse scale." Rebecca was full of questions. Is the secret he's talking about that hamster hair clip? But more importantly, the Dragon King wanted her to go back into the dream. She shuddered and asked anxiously, "A few more times? What do you mean?" The Dragon King made a bold guess. The content of the dream is related to the linking object. If you could get the dreamer's saliva, tears, or blood, you might be able to enter their deeper subconscious. So next time, I need you to get me a few drops of the Demon King's blood. Rebecca's scalp tingled with fear. Last time, just getting a few strands of hair almost got her killed. This time, he wanted blood? This was basically a suicide mission. She was torn. Maybe I should just tell the Demon King everything. But the image of the brutally executed maid flashed in her mind, and she immediately dismissed the thought. Then again, this winged dragon, as strange and unpredictable as he was, still needed her. He probably wouldn't kill her, at least not for now. Thinking this, Rebecca took a deep breath and made up her mind. I'll do it, but on one condition. I need 6 days, and you have to supply me with your blood during that time. The Dragon King readily agreed. He then reached up and plucked a dark red scale from his chest, handing it to Rebecca. Take this. It has some information about the Demon King's habits and preferences. Rebecca's eyes widened in shock. How do you have this information? She blurted out. The Dragon King gave a cold smile, his voice tinged with playful mockery. That's not your concern. All you need to remember is that the more he likes you in the real world, the easier it will be for you to enter the depths of his consciousness in the dream world. Rebecca's heart sank. So I have to suck up to the Demon King? Rebecca had finally finished her 3 days in the little black room, but for some reason her lower half was still stuck with the Dragon King and wouldn't teleport back. Just then, Captain Pacino came to release her. In a panic, Rebecca hid behind the door. When the guard opened the door to an empty room, he almost thought Rebecca had escaped. Luckily, at the last second, Rebecca managed to teleport the rest of her body back. She peeked her head out with a grin. Sorry, I was asleep. On the way back, Rebecca was preoccupied with how to use the few spells the Dragon King had taught her to get a few drops of the Demon King's blood within 4 days. Suddenly, her thoughts were interrupted by a bag of bread. Pacino spoke gently. Miss Rebecca, you should eat something. Thank you, Captain Pacino. She never would have guessed that the bloodthirsty Demon King would have someone so kind by his side. The next day, the Demon Palace held its annual grand banquet. The banquet was, to put it bluntly, a matchmaking party. Young ladies and princesses from all over had their sights set on the Demon King, the ultimate bachelor. Rebecca's duty this time was to serve Princess Lily from the north. Princess Lily's father was the Northern Bee King, who controlled a vast supply of magic stones. She had known the Demon King since childhood and had come this time determined to marry him. With an announcement, the crowd respectfully parted. The Demon King made his grand entrance, exuding an intimidating aura that warned everyone to keep their distance. He walked with steady, powerful steps toward the center of the hall. Seeing him, Rebecca quickly knelt, bowing her head as low as she could. She was terrified that the Demon King might remember what happened in the dream. Thankfully, he walked past her without any sign of recognition. Rebecca held her breath until he was far away before she finally relaxed. It seemed the Dragon King was right. The dreamer had no memory of the person who entered their dream. The Demon King before her was completely different from the one in the dream. He was no longer the timid, cute boy. Now he commanded every situation with the presence of a true king. Flicker of hope sparked in Rebecca's heart, a desire to find a hidden gentleness deep within this powerful Demon King. But she quickly snapped out of it, knowing that her priority was to find a way to get his blood. As she racked her brain, the Demon King's intense gaze suddenly fell on her, then quickly darted away. This fleeting moment was caught by the sharp-eyed ladies in the crowd, causing a stir. His Majesty was just looking at Princess Lily. We don't stand a chance. Princess Lily, however, looked displeased as she glanced at Rebecca. Is that so? The princess's sudden attention sent a cold sweat down Rebecca's back. Sure enough, Princess Lily deliberately bumped into Rebecca, making her spill the red wine she was holding. The Demon King glanced at Rebecca. Princess Lily, consumed by jealousy, failed in her attempt to frame Rebecca and went to complain to the king. Your Majesty, please allow me to take Rebecca back to the north to be properly disciplined. Rebecca's heart leaped into her throat. She knew the Demon King wouldn't offend a beloved princess for a small fry like her. If she wanted to live, she had to save herself. She dropped to her knees with a thud and yelled, I can't go! I'm in a passionate relationship with Captain Pacino, and I can't bear to be away from him for even a day. Her words silenced the entire hall. Pacino was also stunned, but seeing Rebecca's desperate expression, he couldn't bring himself to expose her lie, and played along, pleading with the king on her behalf. Everyone knew that the Demon King and Pacino were as close as brothers. To save face for the king, Princess Lily had to drop her scheme. Fine, I'm going to go change my dress. Excuse me. Having escaped disaster, Rebecca breathed a sigh of relief. However, she didn't expect that this would make the suspicious Demon King fixate on her. The Demon King asked Pacino coolly, When did you two get together? Pacino had no choice but to make something up. I liked her from the start, and then I saw how brave she was. I confessed as soon as her confinement was over. The Demon King's lips curved into a playful smirk. I hope you haven't misjudged her. The ball reached its climax as the first dance was about to begin. Princess Lily, having changed her dress, hurried back, eagerly awaiting the Demon King's invitation. Instead, the king walked over to Rebecca and extended his hand. Miss, may I have this dance? The entire room erupted. Everyone started whispering, guessing that the Demon King was signaling that he had no intention of marrying any of the princesses. Rebecca was dumbfounded. She didn't know how to dance. The moment they started, She began frantically stepping on the Demon King's feet. He almost yelped in pain. "If you can't dance, you should have said so," he grumbled. Rebecca replied cautiously, "When your majesty invites, how could I dare to refuse?" But her feet still wouldn't cooperate. The king, annoyed, pushed her away. Rebecca thought she was done for, but then the king's expression softened. "Step on my feet. I'll lead you." Rebecca was stunned for a moment. The Demon King grew impatient and lowered his voice. "Don't make me say it twice." Rebecca had no choice but to obediently wrap her arms around the Demon King's neck and step onto his shiny leather shoes. They continued to dance to the music. Being so close, Rebecca looked at the Demon King's handsome face and her heart began to race. At the same time, the aura he radiated felt strangely comforting. Just then, the Demon King leaned in close and whispered, "Last night, a bold little demon snuck into my dream, and we shared an intimate moment. Was that you?" The Demon King, suspicious of Rebecca, continued to test her. "Come to me tonight. Wealth, power, glory, I can give you anything you want, even my blood." His voice was low and full of temptation. Rebecca stared at the Demon King. The offer was a deadly temptation, but also a perfect opportunity to survive. Nearby, Pacino watched Rebecca's dazed expression, his heart in his throat, terrified she would say the wrong thing and end up dead. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Rebecca snapped back to reality and decisively refused. "Pacino and I haven't known each other for long, but I've seen him help the servants, and I've seen his undisguised concern for you. I want to protect his integrity and kindness. Even though I fear your power, I could never hurt him." The Demon King just gave a soft, in response, his face unreadable. Rebecca's heart pounded. "Did I pass the test?" she wondered. After a long moment, the Demon King spoke slowly. "Pacino has been by my side since we were children. When the former king was assassinated, his father was killed as well. He has no friends besides me, and his own family abandoned him. He's always been very lonely. Since you two are together, treat him well." Rebecca felt both guilty and shocked. She never thought the cold, bloodthirsty Demon King could care about someone else. But he doesn't have any family either. Does he feel lonely too? In the dream, he was so attached to a stranger. It seemed his difficult days were just as hard as Pacino's. Rebecca couldn't help but feel a flicker of sympathy for the Demon King. But her sympathy vanished the next second when she received a warning glare from him. "If you betray Pacino, I will send you to the gallows." Rebecca panicked instantly. "Right, I can't think of him as a good person. He deserves to be lonely forever." After the ball, to thank Pacino for helping her out, Rebecca brought him a small cake she had baked herself and asked him to continue pretending to be her boyfriend for a while longer. Pacino readily agreed. Rebecca was strangely moved. "Captain Pacino is such a good person," she thought. "No wonder even the Demon King cares so much about him." Thinking of the Demon King reminded Rebecca of her unfinished mission. She knew the king was extremely suspicious, and trying to get his blood secretly was too risky. She could easily lose her life. What should I do? Rebecca was so anxious she could have torn her hair out. Seeing her distress, Pacino offered to help. Rebecca's eyes lit up, and she quickly said she wanted a promotion and a raise, and needed to know the king's preferences, or perhaps a wish he had yet to fulfill. Pacino could tell she was lying. Rebecca had been acting strangely for the past 2 days. While other maids avoided serving the king, she eagerly volunteered. At the ball, her gaze never left the king, and the way she looked at him while they danced was different. Pacino guessed that the promotion was a lie. What she really wanted was to understand the king. Since it involved his majesty, he couldn't agree right away. He decided to observe her for a while longer and politely refused. "I can't think of anything at the moment. I'll let you know if I do." "Okay, thank you, Captain Pacino. I won't disturb you any longer," Rebecca said before quickly leaving. Pacino watched her go, lost in thought. His Majesty has never had any friends. If someone could get close to him, maybe he would open up. I truly hope Rebecca doesn't disappoint. Rebecca had worked all day, only to end up with nothing. She carefully took out the Dragon King's scale. It was her only hope now. The scale projected an ancient image. In the vision, the former king was still alive, and the Demon King was just an innocent child with a close childhood friend, cherished by the king. The former king played with the little Demon King just like any other father. But good times are always short-lived. The former king died suddenly, and the little Demon King was imprisoned. From then on, his world was consumed by darkness. Perhaps it was this painful experience that turned the once innocent boy into the bloodthirsty monster he was today. A withered spirit paulownia tree in the vision seemed to be the key to the Demon King's unresolved trauma. Rebecca thought that if she could revive the tree, she might earn a reward from the Demon King. But her hope quickly faded. With only 2 days left, Could she really work a miracle with her weak magic? As she wrestled with her thoughts, the scale suddenly made a buzzing sound. At the same time, Princess Lily was suffering a great humiliation. The Northern King's furious hand struck Lily's face. The seemingly glamorous Princess Lily was, in reality, just a pawn in the Northern King's hands, a tool for him to expand his power through marriage. Just because she failed to win the Demon King's favor at the banquet, she was subjected to her father's endless humiliation and scolding. The Northern King's sole focus was using her to gain the Demon King's trust so he could assassinate him. But Lily had her own secret. She was in love with her brother Brian. Ever since she found out he was still alive, rescuing him had become her only reason for living. So, she gritted her teeth and agreed to her father's plan, thinking any sacrifice was worth it to achieve her goal. At that moment, she clutched the glowing blue scale in her hand, her eyes filled with determination and urgency, longing to be reunited with her brother Brian. And this massive secret was overheard by the little hamster, who had been led there by the dragon's scale. She made a bold guess. To save the Dragon King, they were planning to assassinate the Demon King. The next day, the Demon King graciously invited the various bee kings and princesses to lunch. During the meal, Lily, with a fake smile, tried to get close to the Demon King. The former king always wanted to arrange a marriage between us. Do you remember, Your Majesty? The Demon King didn't even look up, just coldly replied, I don't. The smile on Lily's face froze. She scrambled for a new topic. Your Majesty shouldn't blame yourself for the former king's death. After all, you were only 8 years old. It's understandable to make mistakes. Her words made Rebecca's heart sink. Was the Demon King involved in his father's death? Is Princess Lily deliberately trying to provoke him? Is this the first step of their assassination plot? The Demon King's face turned dark and grim, but Lily grew more and more agitated, first praising the former king's great achievements, then suggesting a hunting trip to the Dorne hunting grounds to reminisce and honor his memory. Rebecca thought the cautious and suspicious Demon King would surely refuse, but to her shock, he agreed without hesitation. This scared Rebecca so much that her hand trembled as she poured wine, spilling it. Rebecca looked at the Demon King in terror. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Fortunately, the Demon King was in a relatively good mood. He just gave her a cold glance and dismissed her. Rebecca, feeling like she'd been pardoned, quickly retreated to a corner. She considered telling the Demon King about Lily's plot to earn a reward. But after thinking it over, she realized she had no proof. What she'd overheard was just fragments, not enough to be convincing. Besides, getting involved in political intrigue could easily get her killed. Just as she was about to have a breakdown, she heard the Demon King and Lily finalize their plans to leave for the Dorne hunting grounds the next day for a 7-day trip. The news hit Rebecca like a thunderbolt. As a low-ranking maid, she had no right to accompany the king, but her deadline with the Dragon King was only 2 days away. What was she going to do now? With the Dragon King's deadline approaching, Rebecca was stressed to the point of balding. Just then, she received an order to help the Demon King pack for his trip. Suddenly, a bold and risky plan formed in her mind. Late at night, the world seemed to be asleep, except for the Demon King's chambers, which radiated a mysterious and dangerous aura. The hamster cast a teleportation spell, successfully sending half of her body next to the Demon King. This unexpected flaw actually became her cover. The hamster was secretly pleased. While packing earlier that day, she had secretly placed a diligence spell under the Demon King's pillow. Now the Demon King was deep in dreamland, completely unaware. The hamster crept closer, searching his body for the best place to draw blood. Finally, she found the perfect spot behind his ear, rich in blood vessels and least sensitive to pain. With trembling hands, she slowly brought the needle to the back of his ear and successfully collected his blood. Just as she was getting excited, the Demon King let out a muffled groan. The hamster's heart nearly leaped out of her chest and she instinctively dove under his covers. The Demon King seemed to sense something was wrong and slowly opened his blood-red eyes. The hamster hid under the blanket, not daring to breathe, her heart pounding wildly. To make matters worse, at that very moment, her lower half decided to teleport over. The Demon King sat up abruptly, his eyes scanning his surroundings warily. The room's protective barrier was intact. Finding nothing amiss, he slowly lay back down and, under the influence of the diligence spell, fell asleep again. However, the spell's backlash began to take effect, and an overwhelming sleepiness washed over the hamster. She finally couldn't resist and collapsed onto the Demon King's body. When she came to her senses, she was staring at the Demon King's chiseled 18-pack abs. The hamster's eyes widened and she screamed silently in her head. No, no, avert your eyes, this sinful man. In a panic, the hamster tried to use a teleportation spell to escape the awkward situation. But because her previous teleportation had left her form unstable, not only did she fail to leave, but she transformed directly into her human form. The Demon King's handsome face was just inches away, his warm breath on her face. The hamster completely froze, her body stiff as a board, only able to pray frantically in her mind, "Please don't wake up." She kept chanting the diligent spell under her breath. Just then, the Demon King's brow furrowed and he started mumbling, apparently trapped in a terrible nightmare. The hamster's heart tightened, and for some reason, a wave of pity washed over her. On impulse, she reached out, wanting to smooth the wrinkles on his forehead. The moment her fingertips touched his skin, the Demon King's blood-red eyes snapped open. The hamster gasped instinctively. "Such beautiful eyes." The words were out of her mouth before she realized the Demon King was awake. The Demon King's long, slender fingers wrapped tightly around the hamster's delicate neck. A chilling, oppressive killing intent washed over her. Just as she was about to suffocate, the hamster managed to pry his fingers open. At the same time, the Demon King's towering body grew heavy under the influence of the diligent spell, and his eyelids began to close uncontrollably. Seeing her chance, the hamster, despite her weakness, gathered all her strength to escape. But the Demon King's long arm shot out and pulled her back into his embrace. The power of the diligent spell raged within the hamster, draining her strength rapidly, but compared to the Demon King, she still had a sliver of energy left. Gritting her teeth, she used the last of her strength to kick the Demon King hard. He fell to the ground with a thud, unconscious. The hamster didn't dare to linger and quickly activated her teleportation spell. Soon she appeared before the Dragon King. But before she could even breathe a sigh of relief, the Dragon King told her she could no longer enter the Demon King's dreams. Because she had been discovered, she could no longer easily access his dreamscape. The hamster's vision went dark, her legs gave out, and she collapsed to the floor. Suddenly, a strange courage filled her. She resolutely reached out and grabbed the Dragon King's arm, her eyes shining with determination as she said loudly, "I'll be responsible for finding your reverse scale, and you will get me out of here." A moment later, the hamster once again stepped into the Demon King's bizarre dreamscape. In this dream, the Demon King's hands and feet were bound, and he was unable to move, looking completely harmless. The hamster cautiously approached and slowly began to untie him. But the moment his hands were free, a sharp, cold light flashed across the hamster's neck. Before she could even feel the pain, the Demon King had killed her with a single blow. The next moment, she was ruthlessly pushed off a cloud. In that instant, she truly felt how cold it was to bleed out, how painful it was to fall from such a height. She didn't want to experience the feeling of death again. Just as the hamster was losing hope, the Dragon Core's voice sounded in her mind like a ray of light. Even though the Demon King is hostile towards you, the good news is you can still enter his dreams. Because of the diligent spell, he will be asleep for a long time, which means he'll have a lot of dreams. In other words, you still have many more chances. The hamster entered the Demon King's dreams again and again, only to be met with the gnashing jaws of tigers, the huge pincers of scorpions, and the crushing coils of pythons. Her soul was so battered that she could barely even crawl. The Dragon Core kindly reminded her that if she didn't get the scale before dawn, she would really be dead for good. Hearing this, and not wanting to drag her family down with her, the hamster forced herself to sit up. From now on, I can't let myself be killed in the dream. But gaining the Demon King's trust in such a short time is also impossible. Just as she had a flash of inspiration, a pair of evil hands appeared and pushed her into a bottomless abyss. The Demon King's eyes flashed red, as if he were smugly admiring his handiwork. Suddenly, his pupils constricted. He saw a flash of green in the hamster's arms, glowing faintly in the darkness. The Dragon Core, exasperated, teased, "You can't even conjure an umbrella. And you think you can conjure a tree?" The hamster was betting on the Demon King's obsession with the spirit Paulownia tree. If she could prove that she was the key to cultivating it, she could then ask for the winged dragon's heartblood and find the location of the scale. And sure enough, her effort paid off. The little sapling took root as it fell. The Demon King shot down like an arrow, his slender fingers gripping the hamster's waist tightly. But in the dream, his magic was limited, and the magical flame at his fingertips fizzled out. The two of them fell like a broken kite. At the last second, the Demon King twisted his body, using himself as a cushion to save the hamster. The hamster let out a huge sigh of relief. We didn't die from that height. He really does have main character plot armor. Just then, the Demon King's gaze fell on the spirit Paulownia in her hands. He spoke slowly. "Where did you get that?" "I grew it. Only the essence refined by my unique evolution technique can nourish the spirit Paulownia." The hamster suppressed her elation, but the sly glint in her eyes was impossible to hide. She had already formulated a perfect plan in her mind, but she never expected that the scene before her would leave her speechless once again. A stampede of spiders surged from behind the Demon King. The hamster took off running. but then saw a spider launch a fierce attack on the king. He curled up on the ground, tears streaming down his face. The hamster's eyes widened. What's going on? The Dragon Core's warning exploded in her mind. These are manifestations of the dreamer's inner demons. The spirit Paulonia must have triggered a strong emotional response in the Demon King. The tree will only last for half an hour. If the dreamer dies, the dream will collapse and your mission will fail. Before the words had even faded, the hamster was already running back. She grabbed the Demon King's hand. Don't be afraid, I'll get you out of here. The Demon King looked up at the hamster, and his heart skipped a beat as a familiar yet fuzzy memory washed over him. Once before, it seemed, someone else had protected him so selflessly. They ran for a long time before finally finding a safe cave to hide in. The hamster noticed his wound was a strange purplish-black color. The Dragon Core urged her frantically, "He's poisoned! If the poison spreads, he'll die too!" The hamster reached out without thinking, but he grabbed her wrist. "What are you doing?" "You're poisoned," she explained. "You need an antidote right away." The tips of the Demon King's ears turned red as he backed away. "You're not allowed!" However, the hamster just pounced on him and bit down on the wound. After half an hour, the Demon King was out of danger. The hamster finally let out a sigh of relief, only to realize she had stripped him completely bare. "I almost forgot he's a guy." She tried to act calm. "Don't worry about it. When I was studying medicine, I treated adults, kids, men, women, even little animals this way. In my eyes, you're no different from the beagle I saved last time. I didn't feel a thing, so you probably didn't either, right?" The Demon King whipped his head away, his Adam's apple bobbing as he choked out, "Of course not." Just then, the spirit Paulonia, damaged during their escape from the spider, began to wither. There was only one way to save it. "What is it?" the Demon King asked urgently. The hamster said carefully, "The heart blood of a winged dragon can heal it. But there are no more winged dragons in this world." Hearing this, the Demon King let out a low chuckle, a cunning light shining in his eyes. "The heart blood of a winged dragon, you say?" Suddenly, the dream began to shake violently. The Demon King's extreme aversion to the winged dragon's blood was eating away at his consciousness like an inner demon. The Dragon Core's expression turned grave. "It looks like he's about to fall into a deeper level of dreaming." The Demon King's consciousness gradually faded, and soon he was asleep. The hamster, terrified of being trapped in the dream, was about to shake him awake. But the Dragon Core stopped her. "If he wakes up in reality too, all our progress will be lost. You can enter the dream within a dream, but this time you need to find a medium with a deeper connection to him." As the hamster thought hard, the Dragon Core piped up. For example, his saliva from a kiss. Before it could finish, the hamster's face was already beet red. But the Dragon Core continued nonchalantly. "You were just sucking the spider venom out of him. Didn't you basically kiss his whole body?" The hamster was dead set against it at first, but to save her own skin, she had to bite the bullet and agree. With a look of grim determination, she gently cupped the Demon King's handsome face and leaned in. The moment their lips touched, a wave of nervousness washed over her. Guided by the Dragon Core, she gradually deepened the kiss, using her tenderness as a thread to pull at the Demon King's consciousness. After what felt like an eternity, the hamster opened her eyes again, finding herself in a whole new dream world. But she never expected to have become a little boy, and the little Demon King's personal guard at that. "Hey, hurry up, Brian is waiting for us!" The Demon King before her was the child version from the previous dream. And the Brian he mentioned? Could that be the Dragon King from the dungeon? The little Demon King waved enthusiastically at someone in the distance. A silver-haired little boy slowly looked up. "Abrumt, you're here." The hamster studied the little boy closely. It was indeed the Dragon King as a child. She never would have imagined that these two were once close friends who shared their deepest secrets. "I just want my father to see me, but he only has eyes for my talented older brother. Don't be sad, Brian. My father only has eyes for my sister too. He gives her all the best things, but he still secretly replaces the horseshoes on my horse. So your father is probably loving you in ways you don't even notice." Hearing this, the little Dragon King gritted his teeth in frustration. "You're your father's only son. You get all his love. So it's easy for you to say something so condescending. You don't understand how I feel at all." The little Demon King was at a loss. "I might not completely understand your pain, but I'll do everything I can to help you." "You can't help me," the little Dragon King said, tears welling up in his eyes. "My brother was born with the ability to control dragon's breath, and I'm just a failure. Don't cry, you little crybaby, I can help you." "Did you forget? When the gods fell, my ancestor was the only one who survived. My father and I both inherited a divine bloodline." Abram lowered his voice, his warm breath tickling his friend's ear. "The divine bloodline holds a secret that only my father and I know. a single drop of our blood can double one's magic power. At that moment, the hamster finally understood. What the Demon King had said at the ball was true. But hadn't he lost his divine bloodline later on? Brian didn't want his friend to take such a risk, but Abram just smiled. Don't worry, you can always make more blood, but you can't find another best friend. If you feel bad about it, you can be my errand boy from now on and have to praise me 20 times a day. Abram is 100 times more handsome than Brian. Brian quickly waved his hands, refusing. I can't. Before Brian could finish, Abram had already pushed a vial of blood into his hand. Brian, maybe I don't fully understand how you feel, but I will always support you. Brian was moved to tears. He threw his arms around Abram in a tight hug. Abram, you are 100 times more handsome than I, Brian. The hamster peeked out from the side, her round eyes reflecting the two friends embracing. She wished that moment could last forever. However, the wheels of fate were already turning. The Dragon King, Kani, in his ambition to become the ruler of the continent, broke the treaty and secretly assassinated Abram's father. As lower beings, the winged dragons couldn't kill a god, but gods could kill each other. Dragon King Kani used Abram's divine blood to power an ancient forbidden ritual, the god-slaying array. Abram was stunned. Did my best friend Brian betray me? Before he could process it, the Dragon King's longsword pierced his father's chest, and all he could do was watch his father collapse to the ground. The hamster quickly covered Abram's eyes and pulled him away from the danger. Abram's heart was being eaten away by guilt. He was consumed by the tragic belief that it was his own divine blood that had pushed his father to his death. The hamster quickly comforted him. It's not your fault. It was Brian. He betrayed your friendship. Abram gritted his teeth, stubbornly insisting over and over that his father wasn't dead, his voice tinged with a near-maniacal desperation. He violently shook off the hamster's hand and turned to run back, determined to save the father he was convinced was still alive. The hamster watched his resolute back, a sharp stabbing pain twisting in her heart. She couldn't bear to watch Abram go to his death. She rushed forward and hugged him with all her might, shouting desperately, Pacino's father gave his life to buy you time to live. You can't go die. However, Abram was blinded by grief and obsession, unwilling to believe the cruel reality that his father was gone. Just then, a familiar voice came from behind. Abram, are you going to keep being a fool? Abram froze and slowly turned around. It was Brian. He stood alone in the wind, his face etched with sorrow and helplessness. But in the hamster's eyes, he looked like a demon. She rushed forward, grabbing Brian by the collar and screaming, Why did you betray Abram? You're the reason he lost his father. But in the face of the hamster's accusation, Brian vehemently denied it. I knew nothing about it. This was all my father's secret plan. I grew up with your father teaching me just like you. How could I ever harm him? I lost the uncle who loved me too. I'm in as much pain as you are. Brian's tearful words threw Abram into a state of confusion and inner conflict. Brian suddenly said urgently, We're out of time. I know a secret path. I'll take you out of here now. Abram instinctively took a step back, looking at Brian with suspicion. His gaze unintentionally fell on a shocking scar on Brian's wrist. Memories flooded back to him. The once timid Brian had, without hesitation, thrown himself in front of him to block a fatal blow. But what was happening now? His mind was in turmoil. Logic told him he couldn't trust Brian again. But emotionally, he couldn't let go of their once deep friendship. Finally, Abram took a deep breath, slowly reached out, and took Brian's hand. Brian looked at Abram, his lips trembling. Abram, my dearest friend, I'm so sorry. When she saw the Dragon King plunge a sword into the Demon King's heart, Rebecca woke up with a jolt. She couldn't believe it. The Dragon King had just destroyed their friendship with his own hands. For some reason, her heart ached for the Demon King. Shaking her head, she realized she was no longer in the dream within dream. Looking at the Demon King's dark expression beside her, Rebecca cautiously asked, Are you okay? The Demon King gritted his teeth. Just go. The next second, Rebecca threw her arms around him from behind. She just wanted to be there for him, to offer some kind of comfort. But the Demon King exploded. Get off me! Don't think I won't kill you just because you sucked the spider venom out of me. Still, Rebecca couldn't bring herself to leave him. Just then, she woke up for real. When she opened her eyes, she was met with the Dragon King's icy stare. Did you find the location of my reverse scale? Remembering how the Dragon King had betrayed and murdered the Demon King, Rebecca's legs went weak, and she collapsed to the floor. The Dragon King seemed to notice something was off and pressed her. Why are you afraid of me? What did you see in his dream? In a panic, Rebecca blurted out, A nightmare! A really scary one! We were being chased by a poison spider. It just kept chasing us. The Dragon King looked at her, half believing. Seeing her chance, Rebecca continued to spin her story. And there were crocodiles and dinosaurs and man-eating flowers. It was terrifying. Clearly, the Dragon King was taken in. Rebecca pressed her advantage. I know where the reverse scale is. The Dragon King's dark expression instantly broke into a wide smile. Where? Tell me! Rebecca gathered her courage. You have to answer 2 questions for me first. The Dragon King gave a slight nod. With his permission, Rebecca asked boldly, after you get the scale, how are you going to free me from my dependence on your blood? The Dragon King smiled. Once the scale is back in place, my magic will be 70% restored, and I can go 10 times longer between feedings. When I'm fully recovered, 1 drop of my blood will keep you safe for 100 years. 100 years? That meant she'd be free of him for the rest of her life, Rebecca thought. She asked her second question. What's your relationship with Princess Lily? Why does she have one of your scales? The Dragon King's face darkened. That's none of your business. Rebecca was afraid he'd kill her as soon as she told him where the scale was, especially since he had Princess Lily to help him now. To deal with a backstabber like him, Rebecca knew she had to stay in control. She told the Dragon King that she still needed to confirm the scale's location and promised to bring it to him next time. The Dragon King was full of doubt. You've been exposed to Abramt. Do you even have another chance? Rebecca insisted she did, but the thought of the murderous Demon King made her scalp tingle and her stomach churn. After all, the Demon King in reality was completely different from the one in her dreams. The next morning, Rebecca steeled herself and turned herself in. Seeing the Demon King's ice-cold face, she froze. The unspeakable things that had happened in the dream flashed through her mind, and Rebecca's face turned bright red. The Demon King looked up, shooting her a death glare. What, you came back to die? At his words, Rebecca dropped smoothly to her knees. Your Majesty, please spare me. If I didn't come back, your soldiers would have executed me on the spot. I just wanted to explain myself to you in person. A wicked smile played on the Demon King's lips as he leaned in and whispered mockingly in her ear. Then please, do tell. What business did you have climbing into my bed in the middle of the night? Rebecca fought to control her panic. She remembered the Dragon Core saying that the dreamer forgets the dream upon waking. To the Demon King, their life and death struggle together might as well have never happened. After a moment's thought, she quickly explained. Your Majesty, I wanted to get a drop of your blood. The Demon King was surprised, then angry. Who gave you the nerve to target me? Rebecca feigned calmness. You yourself said at the ball that your blood could enhance magical power. My mother is gravely ill, and this is the only way to save her. But I couldn't bring myself to betray Pacino, so I had to sneak in. Rebecca hoped her story would earn the Demon King's sympathy and save her skin. But instead, he offered her a dagger. If you kill yourself, I will verify your story and give your mother a few drops of my blood. It's over, Rebecca thought. She had underestimated the Demon King's cruelty. To avoid implicating her family, Rebecca reached out with a trembling hand and picked up the dagger from the floor. If the Demon King's blood could heal her mother, maybe this was the best way. With that thought, she no longer hesitated and placed the blade against her own neck. As a line of red began to seep from Rebecca's white neck, the Demon King's expression shifted, and he suddenly shot out a hand, grabbing her wrist. Rebecca looked at him in shock, but his face was unreadable. You're one of Pacino's people. It would be difficult to explain if you died here. Then, the Demon King ordered Rebecca to accompany him to the Dorn hunting grounds. He wanted to see what other tricks she had up her sleeve right under his nose. Having just barely saved her life, Rebecca was terrified he'd change his mind and took off running. As the Demon King watched her retreating back, a cloud of suspicion formed in his mind. Her magic is weak, yet she can come and go through my barrier at will. And she knows advanced magic like teleportation. How many more secrets is she hiding? The procession to the Dorn hunting grounds set off in grand fashion, with Rebecca among them. Princess Lily was worried she would ruin her plans, but her ambitious father didn't seem to care, hoping to use Rebecca to drive a wedge between the Demon King and his guard captain. Princess Lily couldn't stand the sight of Rebecca, perhaps because of Brian, her one true love. The prominent bite mark on Brian's hand was like a thorn in her heart. When she took the scale Brian had given her and found Rebecca's quarters, Lily was convinced that Rebecca was only willing to risk her life for Brian because she was taken with his good looks. The sordid images that flashed in her mind only confirmed it. Rebecca deserved to die. She had worked so hard to win Brian's heart, only for Rebecca to swoop in while also two-timing him. Once they arrived at the hunting grounds, everyone set up camp. To completely eliminate the Demon King's suspicion, Rebecca put on a public display of affection with Pacino. The move made everyone around them envious. But it also unexpectedly made the Demon King jealous. Just then, another maid approached Rebecca and relayed the Demon King's orders with a serious expression. It's a hot day. His Majesty has instructed you to go cool down the soldiers' horses with a wash. Rebecca was stunned. This was bad. The poor little working hamster had no choice but to obey. As Rebecca reluctantly headed off to her task, Princess Lily passed her. Rebecca sensed an inexplicable hostility from her, but she had no idea how she had offended the princess. Night fell in a blink of an eye. As Rebecca worked, she grumbled to herself, "Did he bring me to the hunting grounds just to torture me? Making one person do 2 jobs without a raise, he's the worst kind of boss." To save her skin, she had lied to the Dragon King about knowing where the reverse scale was. This might be her last chance to survive. She racked her brain for a way to enter the Demon King's dream. Maybe I can knock him out, but he's too strong. Make him fall for me? No, I'm Pacino's girlfriend now. Use the diligence spell on him again? But then I'd fall asleep too. As she was stressing out, she heard footsteps behind her. "Miss Rebecca, we're from the interrogation unit. His Majesty has instructed you to come with us." Hearing the word interrogation, Rebecca's heart skipped a beat. It's over, it's over. The Demon King suspected her after all. Claiming the king wanted to question her, 2 guards led Rebecca into the woods. Her heart pounded the whole way. Did His Majesty figure something out? Did Princess Lily tell him something? The more she thought, the more she panicked, especially worried that the Dragon King had revealed her secrets to Lily. As they got farther from the camp, the atmosphere grew more sinister. Rebecca couldn't help but ask, "What's going on?" In an instant, the 2 guards' faces turned cold, their eyes flashing with a murderous glint as they said, one word at a time, "We're here to send you on your way." Meanwhile, Princess Lily had deliberately lingered in the Demon King's tent to buy time. When she figured enough time had passed, she got up to leave. The Demon King felt her behavior was a bit odd, but he didn't give it much thought. After Lily left, the Demon King remembered Rebecca. A maid informed him she was still washing the horses. Hearing this, the king immediately dropped what he was doing and strode out of the tent, pointedly telling the maid not to inform Pacino. At the same time, a 2-meter-long blade whistled through the air, hacking down at Rebecca. She was filled with despair, thinking this was the end. But in that split second, the unexpected happened. A giant frog appeared out of nowhere, and in the blink of an eye, swallowed the 2 guards whole. Rebecca was so scared she shifted back to her hamster form. Screaming for help at the top of her lungs, she scrambled away as fast as she could. And so, 1 hamster and 1 frog raced wildly through the wind. After running for who knows how long, Rebecca was so focused on escaping that she didn't watch where she was going, missed a step, and went tumbling straight over a cliff. In that life-or-death moment, a pair of strong arms caught her and held her tight. Rebecca looked up and saw it was the Demon King. His expression was grim, but there was an unmistakable hint of tension in his eyes. "Get behind me." Before Rebecca could recover from the shock, the Demon King had already activated a magic circle. With a flash of light, the giant frog dissolved into a cloud of poisonous gas that slowly dissipated into the air. "Hold your breath," the Demon King said urgently, quickly reaching out to cover Rebecca's mouth and nose. The moment his fingertips touched her lips, time seemed to stand still. Rebecca felt her heart start to beat erratically. She cautiously glanced at the man so close to her, and couldn't help but remember all the moments they had shared in the dream. An unfamiliar feeling began to quietly grow in her heart. The close proximity sent the Demon King into a panic. He snatched his hand back and turned to leave. Rebecca quickly scrambled after him, but her foot slipped and she fell face first into the dirt. Watching the Demon King's retreating back, Rebecca started to cry. "Your Majesty, please don't leave me alone. I'm scared to be here by myself." Her cries stopped him in his tracks. He slowly turned around and saw a pitiful little girl kneeling on the ground, looking so miserable that anyone would have felt sorry for her. Just then, Rebecca's stomach let out an ill-timed grumble. She was so embarrassed she could have died. Stupid stomach, you could have been hungry any other time, why now of all times? In a flash, sizzling juicy meat was already roasting over a fire. But Rebecca hesitated. Was this the meat from that poisonous frog? The Demon King coolly stated that he had already removed the poison glands. Hearing that, Rebecca took a confident bite, and the flavor instantly hit her soul. It was so good she could have stomped her feet. Rebecca's gaze unintentionally fell on the Demon King. She saw that he had cut the meat into small, easy-to-eat pieces just for her. It was a level of thoughtfulness he probably didn't even realize he had. At that moment, Rebecca was certain that the 2 guards hadn't been sent by the Demon King. She just couldn't figure out who wanted to harm her. As she was wondering, the Demon King spoke slowly. "Princess Lily kept me occupied for a full hour, just to lure you into this swamp of death." Rebecca was shocked. "Princess Lily used you just to kill a lowly maid like me? Perhaps the reason has to do with you, not me." Rebecca gathered her courage and moved closer to the Demon King. "Your Majesty, if I were Princess Lily, I'd be curious too. Why did you specifically request to have me transferred to be your personal maid? And why did you save me?" Faced with Rebecca's string of questions, the Demon King snapped, "It's because I've spared you time and time again that you dare to be so presumptuous." His words sent a jolt through Rebecca, and she dropped to her knees to beg for forgiveness. For a moment, the air grew deathly silent. After what felt like an eternity, the Demon King sighed, breaking the terrifying peace. "I checked. Your mother is indeed gravely ill." Hearing this, Rebecca quickly looked up and cautiously asked, "Your Majesty, do you know how she is now?" Seeing her tear-filled eyes, the Demon King couldn't bear it and softly reassured her, "She'll be fine." In truth, the Demon King had already secretly given his blood to the doctor, but he never intended for Rebecca to know. The Demon King's soft words of comfort struck Rebecca right in the heart. Moved to tears, she finally gathered the courage to tell him the secret she had kept hidden for years. "Before I was 8, I was just an abandoned child, left for dead in a pool of blood deep in the forest. It was my parents who rescued me from the jaws of wild beasts. I have no memory of anything before I was 8, but they gave me all their love and turned a dying child into the happiest girl in the world." Hearing this, the Demon King was struck as if by lightning. A flood of buried memories rushed back to him. He, too, had once promised someone that he would find her. The Demon King spoke slowly. "Do you want to know about your life before you were 8? Do you want to know why you were lying in a pool of blood in the wilderness?" It was the first time Rebecca had ever faced this question, and she froze. All she remembered was being covered in injuries when her parents found her. Her past must have been terrible, and she didn't want to reopen old wounds. The Demon King's heart inexplicably tightened. "Don't you want to know who hurt you? Don't you want revenge?" But Rebecca just smiled serenely. "The people who love me wouldn't want me to be trapped in hatred and pain. Letting go of the past is the best way to honor them." Rebecca was actually trying to tell the Demon King that his father wouldn't want him to be tormented by guilt and hatred, but she was afraid of arousing his suspicion. Thinking quickly, she performed a bit of magic in front of him. "Your Majesty, look!" The Demon King followed the faint light with his eyes, and his pupils constricted. Cradled in Rebecca's arms was a spirit Paulownia sapling. He looked at it with disbelief. Rebecca quickly explained, "I sensed that a small branch of the tree you and the former king planted still held a trace of his spirit, so I secretly took it and tried to heal it." "Your Majesty, this is no coincidence. It was your father using his last bit of strength to protect this spark of life and to protect you. In all the places you couldn't see, he has never left your side all these years." The Demon King suddenly leaned in close to Rebecca. "Then why did you save it?" Rebecca panicked. "I could feel your longing for the former king, a weight so heavy you could barely breathe. I didn't want you to be trapped in eternal darkness." While that wasn't the whole reason, it was what was in her heart. The Demon King's heart was slowly being healed by Rebecca. Even in a dangerous situation, she was still thinking of how to bring him light and hope. Just then, a voice shattered the delicate atmosphere. Pacino came galloping over on his horse. "Your Majesty, the maid said you hadn't returned, so I—" He trailed off, stunned by the scene before him. His Majesty had given Rebecca his cloak and was even personally grilling skewers for her? This was a once-in-lifetime sight. While Pacino was still confused, the Demon King ordered him back to the palace, stubbornly explaining that she was just taste testing for poison on his orders. As the Demon King walked away, Pacino whispered to Rebecca, asking what had happened. Rebecca replied, "I was tricked into coming here and ran into a magical beast. Luckily, His Majesty was passing by on patrol and saved me." Pacino was even more confused. The nightly patrols had ended long ago. Could it be that His Majesty came here specifically to save Rebecca? Meanwhile, Princess Lily got a hard slap across the face. The Northern King roared with uncontrollable fury, "How dare you act so rashly! It was just a worthless little maid, and because of your foolish actions, the Demon King changed the hunting grounds. Our entire meticulously planned operation is ruined." Lily, her eyes filled with tears of grievance, held her stinging cheek and shot back, "She is no ordinary maid. When she was in danger last night, the Demon King personally went to save her, and she's working for Brother Brian." Hearing this, a malicious glint appeared in the Northern King's eyes. "That's enough of a lead for us to stir up some real drama." The next day, the highly anticipated autumn hunt began. The Demon King made his entrance and immediately showed off his incredible skill. An arrow flew from his bow and struck a massive black bear, an easy opening kill. Pacino didn't miss the opportunity to shout his praise. "Incredible skill, Your Majesty!" To help the Demon King finally find a partner, he had specifically brought Rebecca to the event, hoping she would witness his impressive prowess. However, Rebecca's attention wasn't on the Demon King at all. Instead, she was worried about the bear that had been shot. That must be a new mother. Even as she was dying, she was desperately trying to crawl back. She must have been worried about her cub. Pacino was stunned. The first step of his grand plan had failed just like that. He quickly reassured Rebecca, "Don't worry, we'll go find the cub right now." But he had no idea that this scene had sparked an unfamiliar displeasure in the Demon King's heart. The hunt ended, and as night fell, a magnificent ball began. The Demon King's mood soured when he couldn't find Rebecca anywhere. When he learned that Pacino had borrowed her, his face instantly darkened, and he gave a cold order. "From now on, anyone who requests leave must report directly to me." Just then, Rebecca made an elegant entrance to the sound of everyone's admiration. The Demon King's gaze was instantly captivated, his eyes practically glued to her. He even found Pacino standing beside her, particularly annoying. Little did he know, this was the second step of Pacino's plan to end the Demon King's single life, spark the man's jealousy. Rebecca casually glanced toward the throne and saw Princess Lily smiling as she poured the Demon King a drink. They were chatting happily, the atmosphere pleasant. A wave of bitterness washed over Rebecca. Meanwhile, Pacino, following his plan, gallantly invited Rebecca for a dance. The two of them danced gracefully to the beautiful music, looking like a perfect, deeply in love couple. Seeing this, Lily tentatively asked the Demon King, "Your Majesty, will you grant them a marriage?" The Demon King was lost in thought for a moment. Then, without a word, he drained his wineglass. A sly smile crept onto Lily's lips, as if she were hatching some secret plot. The Demon King said flatly, "I will handle Pacino's marriage myself. As for you, Princess Lily, you've been paying far too much attention to Rebecca. You will give me a reasonable explanation for last night's events." Lily's face went pale with fear, and she quickly explained, "Your Majesty, I saw that her identity was unknown, and I was afraid she might be a threat to you." The Demon King didn't even look up. "All of your clothing shops in this country have been shut down, and the head of that horse of yours has been delivered to your tent." Hearing this, Lily's legs gave out, and she collapsed to the floor with a thud. But the Demon King continued his cold warning without a shred of mercy. "My people are not for you to command." Seeing this, Lily could only crawl forward and beg for forgiveness. At the same time, the Demon King felt an indescribable heat wash over him, and his consciousness began to blur. Lily saw her chance and rushed forward, feigning concern as she helped him up. "Your Majesty, let me help you back to your tent." Rebecca's eyes were involuntarily drawn to the Demon King. Seeing this, Pacino became even more certain that feelings were secretly blooming between the two of them. Little did he know, Rebecca was just trying to figure out a time to enter the Demon King's dream. She anxiously said to Pacino, "Sir, His Majesty is very drunk. I should go help." Pacino, of course, was thrilled, hoping this would be the chance for the Demon King to open up to Rebecca. Meanwhile, Lily reported back to her father, the Northern King. "Father, I sent the maid away. It's just the two of them in there now." Hearing this, a malicious smile spread across the Northern King's face. "Excellent. The magic I put in that wine isn't just for seduction." At that moment, the Demon King's face flushed an unnatural red, and his breathing grew ragged. Rebecca cautiously approached and gently covered him with a blanket. After confirming that no one else was around, and that the Demon King seemed to be unconscious, she was secretly delighted, thinking this was the perfect opportunity to enter his dream. Her eyes were fixed on the Demon King's lips. All she needed was his emotionally charged saliva. "All I have to do is kiss him. Just kiss him." Thinking this, she slowly leaned toward his lips. Just as their lips were about to touch, the Demon King's eyes suddenly snapped open. Rebecca shot back with a jolt. The Demon King sat up abruptly and demanded, "Are you in my dream again?" Rebecca's heart tightened, thinking he was just deliriously drunk. Before she could react, the Demon King's handsome face was close, his magnetic voice whispering in her ear, "You were about to kiss me just now, weren't you? What, are you going to suck out some more spider venom?" Rebecca was in a complete panic, not expecting the Demon King to remember what happened in the dream. She could only keep telling herself it was a coincidence. But then, the Demon King began to describe the details of the dream with perfect clarity. "Last time, you were a little guard in armor. The time before that, you were a nurse in a uniform, so what are you this time?" Hearing this, Rebecca felt like she'd been struck by lightning, her mind completely blank. The Demon King fell back again, weak, mumbling incoherently. He vaguely sensed that this dream was different from the others. His whole body felt like it was on fire, the searing heat growing more intense. Looking at Rebecca, for some reason, he found himself having some unspeakable wicked thoughts. But Rebecca didn't want to miss such a good opportunity, figuring the Demon King thought he was in a dream anyway. She steeled herself, gritted her teeth, and pressed her lips to his. The moment they touched, the Demon King's eyes snapped open again. The Demon King tried to push Rebecca away, but the drug was too powerful and she easily overpowered him. Rebecca knew this was her only chance. so she mustered all her strength to seal his lips. She successfully pried his mouth open and, using his emotionally charged saliva, entered his dream once again. Only this time, in the dream, she had turned back into an adorable little hamster. Just then, she heard the sound of urgent footsteps. The young Demon King instinctively scooped up the hamster and signaled for her to be quiet. Since that day, he had been mercilessly locked in this dark prison. The greedy winged dragon king coveted the mysterious and powerful divine bloodline within him and sent people to torture him cruelly every few days. Not only that, but to keep any living creature from getting near him, the Dragon King had arranged for a swarm of spiders to watch him day and night. The young Demon King was worried the hamster would be harmed, so he whispered for her to leave quickly. Looking at the seals all around him, the young king thought that rather than letting his divine bloodline fall into the hands of his father's killer, it would be better to entrust it to the hamster before him and help her escape. So, he quietly channeled his spiritual energy and slowly infused his divine bloodline into the hamster. Suddenly, a spider radiating a strange aura lunged at the hamster. Seeing this, the hamster trembled and took off running on her little legs. The young Demon King watched her go, thinking to himself that perhaps this was the best fate for his divine bloodline. As long as it didn't fall into the hands of the winged dragons, they could search his body all they wanted. He had nothing to fear. But who would have thought that the next second, he would feel a warm touch on his fingertip? He looked down in astonishment and saw the hamster tightly gripping his finger. The young king asked, surprised, "You already escaped. Why did you come back?" The hamster panted, "I'm going to get you out of here with me before those spiders come back." In reality, she had another motive: to get the location of the reverse scale from the young king. With that in mind, Rebecca quickly activated a teleportation spell. Strangely, perhaps because she was in a dream, the teleportation was exceptionally smooth this time. In a flash of light, they were successfully transported outside the dark prison. Rebecca cheered, "We escaped!" The young Demon King, however, was full of suspicion. How could she have transformed into her original form so quickly? Had the divine bloodline already merged with her? Rebecca then suggested they find a place to rest, using the young king's injuries as an excuse. But really, she wanted to find a chance to ask about the reverse scale. The young king gave a slight nod and a soft reply because he too was plotting how to get the divine bloodline back from her. Seeing the young Demon King covered in wounds, Rebecca's heart ached and she quickly cast a healing spell. The winged dragon king was despicable, not only betraying his best friend but also torturing the young king like this. If she hadn't been forced by him, Rebecca would never have helped him find the reverse scale. Suddenly, Rebecca felt her body become lighter, her spiritual power surging. She quickly asked the young king if he had done something to her. The young king was in a difficult position. The divine bloodline was a special case. Unless the person was willing, no one could know where it was, let alone extract it. Although he had placed it inside Rebecca and knew its location, if she refused to return it, forcibly taking it would not only require immense magical power, but would also endanger her life. Unsure of her intentions, he decided to keep it a secret for now. He also felt grateful to her for saving him and didn't want to deceive her, so he planned to observe her for a few days. Seeing the young king's troubled expression, Rebecca felt a pang of guilt. But to survive, she had to find a way to trick him into revealing the location of the reverse scale. Rebecca took out the dragon scale and showed it to the young king. "Look, what's this?" The young king was shocked. "How do you have a dragon scale? What's your connection to the dragon clan?" Rebecca lied, saying she got it from Princess Lily, daughter of the Northern Wolf King, and heard it was a gift from the winged dragon prince. Hearing this, the young king sensed that things were about to get serious. Dragon scales were connected to the dragon's body and could sense each other's location. Rebecca panicked and tried to destroy the scale, only to find that as long as the dragon was alive, the scale couldn't be destroyed. The young king suggested placing the scale somewhere else to mislead their enemies. But Rebecca's body was weak, and she could only cast one more independent teleportation spell, so she had to choose a safe place. She begged the young king for advice, and he remembered his father telling him about a certain place in the demon palace that might work. Just then, with a swoosh, an arrow pierced through Rebecca's body. The Dragon King had found them! The injured Rebecca collapsed to the ground, and the young Demon King quickly pleaded with the Dragon King to spare her. The next second, Rebecca abruptly got back up, a flash of killing intent in her eyes, and a powerful force erupted from her body. Everyone present was stunned. The Dragon King was full of suspicion. How could this seemingly ordinary child possess such powerful spiritual energy? The young Demon King was even more shocked. The power of the divine bloodline erupting from Rebecca was far greater than his own, as if it had always belonged to her. Seeing that Rebecca made no further move, the Dragon King immediately ordered their capture. The young Demon King scooped Rebecca up and ran for his life. The Dragon King watched them go, beginning to suspect that Rebecca was connected to that person. The young Demon King, carrying the injured Rebecca, had fled to the edge of a cliff. Rebecca's soul slowly floated out of her body. Just as she was reeling in shock, the Dragon Core suddenly appeared. She's been hit by an arrow and is unconscious. If it weren't for the power of the divine bloodline, she'd be long dead. Hearing this, Rebecca's heart sank, and she instantly understood. Are you saying the young Demon King transferred his divine bloodline into my body? The Dragon Core nodded slightly, a hint of teasing in its tone. Otherwise, did you really think your power would surge in a dream? At that moment, Rebecca's life was in the young Demon King's hands. The Demon King had always been ruthless, and Rebecca knew that this time she was probably done for. Sure enough, the young Demon King slowly reached out his hand, intending to forcibly extract the divine bloodline from her body. Seeing this, Rebecca tried to stop him, but she was just a wispy soul, and couldn't touch his hand no matter how hard she tried. She could only watch as his hand got closer and closer to her body. Just as Rebecca thought it was all over, the young Demon King's hand stopped mid-air. She was stunned, and then she heard him start to sob quietly, muttering to himself that he couldn't harm his savior, or else he'd be no different from the treacherous Brian. The Dragon Core couldn't help but chuckle. He actually chose you. Rebecca subconsciously glared at it as if to say, what's wrong with that? But she was still confused. What had happened to turn the kind young Demon King, who wouldn't harm others even in the most desperate situations, into the cold-blooded, murderous monster he was today? As she was thinking, the winged dragons caught up to them. The young Demon King instinctively held Rebecca tightly in his arms. At the same time, Rebecca's soul quickly returned to her body. With the winged dragons closing in and a deep abyss behind them, a sense of despair filled the air. Rebecca let out a weak whimper. The young Demon King was overjoyed. "You're awake!" But Rebecca didn't have time to respond. The next second, she urgently suggested, "Let's jump off the cliff." "Trust me, I have a way to keep us alive." The young Demon King was stunned for a moment, hesitated for only a fraction of a second, then nodded decisively. They held hands and slowly walked to the edge of the cliff. Taking a deep breath, they leaped, plunging into the endless abyss. As they fell, Rebecca silently chanted, "Big wings." Big wings, trying to sprout wings, but nothing happened. Seeing they were about to hit the ground, the young Demon King didn't hesitate to position his body to cushion her fall. Rebecca was shocked. "What are you doing? I should be the one on the bottom." But the young king said, "You were never supposed to be in this mess. It's my fault you're here." Hearing this, Rebecca's heart began to beat wildly. She absolutely could not let anything happen to him. She pushed through her weakness, gathered the last of her strength, and cast a teleportation spell once more. Luckily, it worked, and they managed to escape death. However, before the joy of survival could even set in, Rebecca suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. Her body felt like it was being swallowed by an invisible black hole, her strength draining away. Seeing this, the young Demon King's eyes turned red, and he shouted, "Don't sleep! Wake up! I'll take you back to the Dark Domain. I'll find a way to heal you." Rebecca was coughing up blood not just because she had forced a teleportation spell, but because the divine bloodline was merging with her, rapidly consuming her life force. The young Demon King's heart tightened, and he quickly checked the divine bloodline within her. Sure enough, only 2/3 of it remained. He had to get it back immediately. But Rebecca was his savior, and he couldn't bring himself to do it. The only way was to get back to the Dark Domain, and have the royal physicians help him before the bloodline fully merged with her. But as soon as the young Demon King arrived at the palace in the Dark Domain, he was stopped by the guards. He shouted angrily, "I am the Crown Prince, don't you recognize me?" The guard, without a word, kicked them both away. If you were the Crown Prince with the divine bloodline, you would have been able to dodge that kick. The young king realized in shock that all the palace guards had been replaced. A now conscious Rebecca saw a Dragon Clan emblem on a carriage, and asked, confused, "The Winged Dragon Clan killed your father. Why is the Dark Domain still dealing with them?" From the talk of the common folk, they learned that a new king was about to be crowned. The former Demon King and Crown Prince had supposedly died of a sudden illness while visiting the Winged Dragon Clan. Now the throne was being inherited by Duke King, the young Demon King's brother-in-law. And the grand procession was a collection of rare treasures sent by the Winged Dragon Clan to apologize and congratulate the new king. Rebecca instantly understood the Winged Dragon's plot, and urged the young Demon King to have his family bring him back to the palace to expose the conspiracy. The young king took Rebecca to the outskirts of the palace, dug up a hidden royal signal flare, and lit it. He was confident his mother and sister would come for him. While they waited, Rebecca wanted to help the young king clean up, but after just a few steps, she felt sick and had to crouch down. The young king asked with concern, and Rebecca, fighting through the pain, said she was just tired. When they reached the river, the young king, seeing how weak Rebecca was, offered to wash her face. His gentle movements made her forget. He was the same bloodthirsty demon king. He also carefully tidied her messy hair and pinned a cute hamster-shaped clip in it. Rebecca looked at her reflection in the water and sighed. "You're really good at this. This is the first time anyone's ever done my hair." The young demon king was shocked. "Your mom never did your hair?" At the mention of her mother, Rebecca's expression changed. At his age, her adoptive parents hadn't found her yet, and she didn't even know who her real parents were. Seeing this, the young king quickly comforted her. "It's okay. If you like it, I'll do your hair every day from now on and buy you pretty hair clips." Rebecca was incredibly touched, but to save her own life, she had to probe him. "What are your plans now?" The young king's eyes were firm. "I will take the throne, crush the winged dragon clan, and unite the continent." "What about Brian? What will you do to him?" "I'll rip out his reverse scale while he's still alive and make him wish he were dead." Getting closer to the answer, Rebecca asked more boldly, "And where do you plan to hide the reverse scale?" The young king answered without a second thought, "I will bury it under the spirit Polonia tree to be with the ants, the sewage, and the dirt, as an offering to my father." Rebecca finally knew where the reverse scale was. Once she completed her mission, she could go back to a peaceful life with her parents. But doing so felt like she was betraying the young demon king. Just then, they heard the sound of a carriage in the distance. They both turned. The young demon king recognized his mother's carriage at a glance and shouted excitedly, "Mother! Sister! I'm here!" But the next second, his smile froze. The man in the carriage yelled, "Someone! Execute this commoner who dares to impersonate the crown prince." The young demon king never imagined that even his beloved sister would betray him. "You are not Abramt. My poor dear brother followed our father to the heavens." At Duke Kane's command, the guards swarmed forward, instantly surrounding the young demon king and Rebecca. Rebecca urged him to take back the divine bloodline from her, but he couldn't bear to see her get hurt and hesitated. In that moment, a blade pulsing with chilling killing intent fell toward him. At the last second, Rebecca threw her arms around the young demon king and pulled him out of the way. But their enemies were like a pack of wolves, using their superior numbers to press in. Rebecca cast her teleportation spell again, and with a faint shimmer of light, they vanished. But she was already too weak, and had only managed to move them a short distance. She once again begged the young demon king to take the divine bloodline, his heart twisting with pain and conflict. As he hesitated, the sound of hoofbeats approached. The old dragon king and his son Brian arrived, radiating menace. "Do what you want with the boy," the old king ordered, "but leave the girl alive." They were quickly found again and surrounded by the hungry pack. Rebecca knew there wasn't enough time for him to take back the bloodline. A look of resolve flashed in her eyes. "If I could defeat the old dragon king once, I have to try again now, even if it costs me my life." With that thought, she turned to the young demon king, her expression serious. "You have to remember what I'm telling you. Even though your friend and your sister betrayed you, your father and I will always support you." The young demon king had a terrible feeling as Rebecca said her final words with grim determination. "Please, for our sake, live a good life. A just king, one that people will love." Before he could respond, her body erupted in a brilliant golden light. She recklessly channeled the power of the divine bloodline within her and charged the surrounding guards. In an instant, they were sent flying, collapsing to the ground in a battered heap. But then, disaster struck. Several arrows pierced her body, and she coughed up mouthfuls of blood. The young demon king's heart seized, the pain so intense he could barely breathe. "Little demon king, don't come over here!" Enduring the searing pain, Rebecca waved her small hand, and a shimmering barrier materialized in front of him, protecting him completely. The young demon king was consumed by grief and self-loathing, hating how weak he was, unable to even protect his dearest friend. All he could do was watch as the old dragon king seized Rebecca. The old king's eyes glinted with greed and curiosity, determined to uncover her true identity. The young demon king cried until his voice was raw. Just then, a cold, eerie voice echoed in his mind. "I told you that you would pay for your foolishness. How does it feel to watch someone you care about in peril, completely helpless? A pity it's too late now. The divine bloodline has already fully merged with that girl." "Who are you?" the young demon king asked in shock. The voice replied with a hint of smugness and mockery. "I am the one who can grant you the ultimate power." The evil god's voice was cold and tempting. "Share your body with me, and I will help you turn the tables and reclaim your throne." The young demon king's mind reeled. His father's warnings echoed in his ears. The evil god was the most malevolent being in existence, and the gods had exhausted their power just to seal him away, leading to their own downfall. He fiercely refused, unwilling to make a deal with the devil. But he was trapped with no way out, and the evil god had him right where he wanted him. Meanwhile, Rebecca had achieved her goal for this dream and decided to end it with her own death. In her 2 trips into his dreams, she had touched the deep-seated hatred in the young king's heart. While she couldn't change the past, she wanted to protect him just once in this dream, to show him that the world wasn't only filled with betrayal. With that, she channeled all her spiritual energy, and the pattern of a self-destruction spell began to glow on her skin. The young demon king screamed, lunging forward. It's no use. Once the self-destruction spell is activated, it can't be reversed. I am the only one in this world who can reverse it, the evil god's voice hissed again. The young king froze, then gritted his teeth. I'll share my body with you, but you have to save her. The deal was struck, and the evil god instantly possessed his body. The next second, that same body began swinging its sword like a madman. The old dragon king was the first to fall, followed by his treacherous sister and brother-in-law. Duke Kane's cries for help were cut short by the blade, and his sister's pleas for mercy were met with none. By the time Rebecca sensed the strange, violent energy, it was too late. A cold blade pierced her heart. She coughed up a mouthful of blood, looked at the familiar face before her, and managed to force out a single word, "Why?" When the young demon king came to his senses, he was horrified to realize he had just killed the very person who had tried so desperately to protect him. As Rebecca lay gravely injured, the buried memories flooded her mind. She finally understood that the ugly scar on her chest was a mark from that tragedy. She had cherished the warmth of her adoptive parents so much that she had willingly cast aside her past, only to have it brutally torn open in the demon king's dream. Why did he kill her? Why did he abandon her? Weren't they supposed to be best friends forever? 1,000 questions gnawed at her heart. Rebecca suddenly snapped out of her daze. She turned to the demon king beside her, her eyes filled with a desperate need for answers. But he just pressed his lips together, silent. After he had calmed down that day, he had gone back to look for her. But all he found was a sickening pool of blood. The little hamster was gone. With the evil god whispering poison in his ear, he had believed she was gone forever. It wasn't until she pleaded for the other maid, her eyes flashing with that same stubborn light, that he began to suspect. Even with his doubts, he had kept her by his side. But what was the meaning of that sudden kiss? Their eyes met, the air thick with unspoken questions and suspicions. Suddenly, the dragon core in Rebecca's chest began to burn, urging her to hand over the reverse scale to the Dragon King as soon as possible. Don't you have anything to say to me? The Demon King finally spoke, his voice tight with suppressed anger. To save her own skin, Rebecca gritted her teeth and blurted out, I'm not Pacino's girlfriend. The Demon King's brow furrowed slightly. That wasn't the answer he wanted. He wanted to know why she had kissed him, what kind of game she was playing. Just as Rebecca was about to explain, a deafening roar erupted from outside the tent. Abramt, get out here and die! The Demon King shot to his feet, his eyes as sharp as daggers. We'll finish this when I get back. With that, he stormed out of the tent. The backlash from the Dragon Core was starting to kick in. Rebecca's mind raced. She was about to use her teleportation spell to escape, when she heard the Northern King's furious shout from outside. God-slaying array, activate! Rebecca froze, her blood turning to ice. It was the same spell that had killed the old Demon King. As the God-slaying array activated, Rebecca threw herself in front of the Demon King, trying to block the fatal blow. The Demon King stared at her small, determined back, and the ice that had frozen his heart for 1,000 years instantly melted, a wave of warmth threatening to overwhelm him. He leaned in, his warm breath tickling her ear. Little hamster, look down. Rebecca froze, her eyes widening in shock. The Demon King was completely unharmed. Instead, it was the Northern King who was trapped in the array, writhing in agony. How do you like the God-slaying array? The Demon King's voice was ice cold. I was just drunk. Did you really think I fell for the poison in the wine? The Northern King's eyes bulged. Who switched the poisoned wine? Who betrayed me? I did, Princess Lily said, stepping forward with a resolute smile. Rebecca's mind spun. When did Lily team up with His Majesty? But then she remembered her mission. With the crisis averted, she could finally go get the reverse scale. She knew the Demon King hated betrayal more than anything, but she had to get back to her parents. She activated her teleportation spell, and in the next second, she was standing beneath the Spirit Polonia tree. The reverse scale was buried here. A burning pain shot through her body, but she gritted her teeth and dug frantically at the dirt, quickly finding a wooden box. The box was sealed with the Demon King's magic, but strangely, her fingertips passed through it with ease. The seal broke, the box opened, and the shimmering light of the reverse scale filled her eyes. At that exact moment, both the Demon King and the Dragon King sensed the scale's energy. Enduring the excruciating pain, Rebecca teleported to the dungeon. Before she could even speak, the Dragon King snatched the scale from her hands and pressed it against his chest. A brilliant light erupted, and the chains binding him shattered as a world-destroying power awakened within him. With the reverse scale returned to his body, the Dragon King's full power was restored, and the simple iron chains could no longer hold him. As if hypnotized, Rebecca threw herself at him, biting down on his neck and greedily drinking his blood. She could feel the purity of this power. Maybe this time she could finally break free from his control. Abrupt! Rebecca's heart sank. She turned to see the Demon King's ice-cold eyes boring into her. He advanced on her step by step, his voice like poisoned ice. "So he's your real lover?" "No, let me explain." The words caught in her throat. Rebecca's eyes turned red with frustration. Her body was being controlled by the Dragon King. "Congratulations, my dear friend," the Dragon King said, wrapping an arm around Rebecca's waist, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "How does it feel to be betrayed again? Especially when the traitor is the same little hamster who died for you all those years ago. Such a perfect replacement." His words ignited the Demon King's fury. A tide of dark energy poured out of him. He pointed his sword at the Dragon King, his roar shaking the very foundations of the dungeon. "I'll kill you all over again." The blade sliced through the air with world-ending force. The Dragon King barely dodged, shocked to find that his opponent's power was even greater than he remembered. "Abrupt, what kind of secret are you hiding?" he demanded. His words snapped Rebecca out of her trance. Abrupt cared so much about the old her, he would never have killed her on purpose. That means he was being controlled back then? And now, in a daze, she watched them fight, the stone walls of the dungeon crumbling around them. She knew she couldn't wait any longer. Risking everything, she threw her arms around the Demon King from behind, her voice choked with tears. "Look at me, it's me, your little hamster! You didn't die, I came back for you." Rebecca begged the Demon King to trust her one more time, but he just stared at her, his expression unreadable. Her heart tightened, terrified that her deception had truly angered him, that he might actually kill her. In her daze, she felt a warm touch on her head. The Demon King gently stroked her hair, clearly feeling his own divine bloodline flowing within her. No wonder she could pass through his barriers, learn teleportation so easily, and even heal his father's spirit tree. All the mysteries were solved in an instant. The Demon King couldn't hold back any longer. He pulled Rebecca into a crushing hug, as if trying to merge her into his very bones. He had finally found the little hamster he had been searching for all this time. Rebecca felt squeezed by his embrace, but she was overjoyed that he was himself again. The next second, however, he flinched as if stung and pushed her away, stumbling back. The veins on his forehead bulged as a splitting headache hit him. 1,000 questions flooded his mind. How did she survive back then? Did she forget everything because it was too painful? Was she working with the Dragon King from the start because she knew who he was? Was this all revenge? Seeing him in such pain, Rebecca's heart ached. But the Dragon King, showing no sense of honor, took advantage of the opening and attacked. "Abrupt, you still haven't learned a thing after all these years." The Demon King's eyes snapped open, a playful glint now hidden in their crimson depths. The next second, an arrow shot from behind the Dragon King and pierced his heart. The Dragon King looked back in shock and saw that the shooter was Lily. "Why?" he roared in disbelief. Lily laughed mockingly. "Brother Brian, you betrayed your closest friend. Did you really think I'd be foolish enough to give you my heart?" The Dragon King panicked, tried to tempt her with the promise he'd made to make her his queen. But Lily had her own plans. Love wasn't nearly as appealing as power. She had already made a deal with the Demon King at the ball. He had promised her the throne of the North. Rebecca was stunned by Lily's ambition, but a question popped into her head. Why hadn't she told Abrupt my identity sooner? Just then, that mysterious power suddenly turned and attacked Rebecca. Without a second thought, the Demon King threw himself in front of her. The Dragon King seized the opportunity, wrapping his long tail around Lily. "Abrupt, I'll be waiting for you," he snarled, and then they vanished. The backlash from the Dragon Core hit Rebecca, and her vision went black as she collapsed into the Demon King's arms. Before he could even ask what was wrong, she vanished as well. The Demon King's outstretched hand froze in midair, a piece of his heart seemingly ripped away. Rebecca woke from a nightmare to the hazy, familiar sight of her parents by her bedside. She threw herself into her mother's arms, sobbing, "Mom, Dad, I missed you so much." But the joy of their reunion was cut short as Rebecca looked around. "Where are we?" "This is the Northern King's palace," a chilling voice said from behind her. Rebecca turned to see the Dragon King's bottomless eyes. He was dressed in a silver-white royal robe, putting on a gentle act and claiming to be her savior. Rebecca was disgusted by his hypocrisy but had no choice but to play along. "I made a mistake at the Demon Palace, and he saved me," Rebecca said to her parents, and they repeatedly expressed their gratitude to him. But the Dragon King took the opportunity to have them stay and keep Rebecca company. Realizing he had another motive, Rebecca pleaded with her parents to let her speak with him alone. Once her parents had left, the smile vanished from Rebecca's face. "Why did you go back on your word? Isn't controlling me with the Dragon Core enough? Now you have to use my parents as hostages too?" The Dragon King let out a low chuckle and leaned in closer. "Have you ever entered the Demon King's dream alone before?" "Yes, I have," Rebecca answered honestly, taken aback. "The only person who has ever been able to enter a dream within dream twice is me." The Dragon King's composure finally broke. "Have you ever wondered why you can do it now? Just like you once made the divine bloodline your own, the Dragon Core now sees you as its master." Rebecca panicked and demanded he take his stupid Dragon Core back. But the Dragon King just sat back down leisurely. "I was going to. But your body, in its desperation to survive, has already absorbed it. Now, you are my Dragon Core." This meant that Rebecca and the Dragon King were inextricably linked. She didn't want to live a life dependent on his blood. But to find out the truth about her, the Dragon King shamelessly used her parents as leverage. Rebecca couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed a glass of water from the table and threw it in his face. "You backstabbing liar! You're despicable!" Just then, a doctor entered the room. The Dragon King, completely unfazed, stood up and left, not even noticing the Demon King disguised among the medical staff. Rebecca had finally woken from her coma, and her parents were terrified she would be in danger again. Her father, with trembling hands, held out a white box, explaining that it was the medicine she had someone send for her mother. But the whole situation felt so strange that they hadn't dared to use it. The moment Rebecca opened the box, she froze. Inside was a vial of bright red liquid. It was the Demon King's blood. Rebecca remembered mentioning her mother's illness to him at the ball. She never thought he would have secretly sent his blood. To keep her parents from worrying, she buried the truth about her relationship with the Demon King deep in her heart, and lied, saying it was a gift from her dear friend, the King's Guard Captain Pacino. Just then there was a knock on the door. Abramt, disguised as a doctor's assistant, came in to change her dressing. Panicked, Rebecca quickly hid the box under her blanket and pretended to drink her soup. As she looked down, a stray strand of hair fell into the bowl. Abramt immediately reached out and tucked it behind her ear. When Rebecca looked up and saw his eyes, she froze. Those bright, intense eyes were deep and familiar, just like the ones belonging to the Abramt she thought about day and night. But it couldn't be him. Shaking her head, Rebecca started to tie up her own hair, but the sudden movement caused her IV to back up with blood. Abramt immediately stepped forward, his voice gentle but firm. "Don't move, I'll do it." He clumsily tied her hair, and that simple action shattered Rebecca's defenses. She remembered someone else, long ago, who had been just as clumsy but had tied her hair with the utmost care. That person was Abramt. Lost in thought, Rebecca heard the man's soft voice. "The hair tie, please." She snapped out of it and handed it to him, only for him to ask, "What were you thinking about just now?" Rebecca smiled. "I was just thinking that this feels familiar." Abramt's hands paused, his gaze heavy as he looked at her. "Is that person important to you?" "Yes," Rebecca nodded, her voice barely a whisper, but filled with unwavering certainty. "Besides my parents, he's the most important person in my life." The air seemed to stand still for a moment, and then Abram's Adam's apple bobbed. Rebecca stared at the full vial of the Demon King's blood, her heart in turmoil. "I betrayed him, yet he kept his promise to heal my mother. I miss him so much. But I let his most hated enemy, Brian, escape. How can I possibly face him?" Filled with guilt and longing for Abramt, Rebecca drifted off to sleep. In a daze, she thought she saw him again, gently wiping away her tears. His touch so tender it was nothing like the cold-blooded Demon King of legend. "Abramt," she whispered his name as she woke up with a start. The moonlight was cold outside her window and she was alone. It was just a dream. The desire to see him grew even stronger. Suddenly, Brian's words came back to her. With the power of the Dragon Core, you can use an object with a person's essence to enter their dreams. Without another moment of hesitation, Rebecca opened the vial with trembling hands, poured out the Demon King's blood, and created a simple magic circle. A red light flashed, and her consciousness was instantly pulled into a silent chapel. This was the edge of Abramt's consciousness, and its calmness surprised her. The last time she had broken in, it had been a storm of swords. "Perhaps his state of mind has changed," the Dragon Core's voice said. "Maybe that suspicious, murderous Demon King is searching for peace, or maybe an answer." Just then, Rebecca's eyes fell on a confessional. A heavy aura emanated from it like the guilt and confusion Abram kept locked away. She walked straight toward it and asked with reverence, "If I confess everything to his consciousness, will it change anything?" "Of course," a voice from inside the confessional replied. It was identical to Abram's. Rebecca nearly had a heart attack. "If there's a chapel, there's a priest," the Dragon Core explained. "That voice is a manifestation of the balance within his heart. It's not real." Rebecca clutched her chest, trying to catch her breath. She desperately wanted to see Abramt, but the thought of what he might look like still made her heart skip a beat. Finally, she dropped to her knees. "Father, I have committed an unforgivable sin. I betrayed someone very important to me." "And what is your relationship with him?" the Abramt-like voice asked again. Rebecca was silent for a moment, then closed her eyes, her voice choked with tears but absolutely firm. "He is the person I would give my life to protect." The moment she spoke, there was a loud crash from behind the door. Rebecca's eyes flew open, and she stared at the door. "Father, what happened?" The priest cleared his throat. "And what did you do to this person you wish to protect?" Every word of Rebecca's confession was overheard by Abramt, who had been standing silently behind the door. From being forced to go undercover to her inner turmoil over stealing the reverse scale, to the heart-wrenching pain of being held hostage with her family, all the hidden truths came pouring out. But the most moving part was her defense of Abramt. "The world says he's suspicious and cruel, but in my heart he is loyal and sincere." This heartfelt understanding touched him more than any sweet words ever could. The door creaked open, and Abramt stepped out of the shadows, his voice trembling slightly. "What are your feelings for him?" Rebecca looked up, her eyes filled with tears. She no longer hid her feelings for him. In the moment the misunderstanding was cleared, there were no hysterical accusations, only the sound of two hearts beating in the silent chapel. "Can I kiss you?" Abramt was the first to break the silence. Without a moment's hesitation, Rebecca stood on her toes and gently pressed her lips to his. At that moment, their two hearts, pressed close together, seemed to overcome all the barriers and suspicions of the real world. Abramt gently wiped the tears from her cheeks. Rebecca could no longer hold back and threw herself into his arms, sobbing, "I'm so sorry! I did so many things to hurt you. I thought you would never forgive me." In truth, Abramt had forgiven her long ago. After all, if he had been in her shoes, he wasn't sure he could have done any better. Suddenly, the world around them began to twist and collapse. The dream was ending. Rebecca didn't want to leave him. "Don't be afraid," Abramt said, gently stroking her hair and whispering in her ear. "I'll come for you soon." Rebecca woke up, the warmth of his touch still lingering on her fingertips. The thought that Abramt was with her, even in darkness and danger, filled her with the courage to face whatever came next. However, a sudden visit from Princess Lily threatened to throw an unknown complication into their newly mended relationship. "Long time no see. Looks like you haven't been doing so well either," Princess Lily said, strolling in. Rebecca shot her a dismissive look. "I don't think we're on close enough terms for you to be visiting me, Your Highness." "What if I told you?" Lily suddenly leaned in close to Rebecca's ear. "I'm here to propose a partnership?" Rebecca was stunned, then found it laughable. The Grand Princess of the North, the future queen of the winged dragons, wanted to team up with a commoner who could barely save herself? Lily scoffed. "I couldn't care less about being some queen. Brian wants to use his status as my fiancé to suppress my brother and become the ruler of the North himself. I'm the strongest royal in the North, but just because I'm a woman, I'm stripped of my right to the throne, forced to be a stepping stone for my brother, and even have to compete for a place as Brian's consort. I won't accept it. Why should I step aside for those incompetent men? I'm going to be the queen of the North." Rebecca's eyes widened in shock. She never thought this seemingly spoiled princess was such a clear-headed, powerful woman. She refused to be a gilded canary in a cage, beautiful on the outside but with no freedom. Her courage and ambition earned Rebecca's respect. She didn't have Lily's grand ambitions. All she wanted was for her parents to be safe, her love to be by her side, and to live a simple, happy life. But first, she had to escape this prison. "Okay, I'll work with you," Rebecca said decisively. The first step to breaking free from Brian's control was to remove the Dragon Core. The Royal Library in the North held an ancient text describing the removal technique. But Brian was extremely suspicious, so they had to gain his trust first. After some thought, Rebecca brought a bowl of carefully prepared soup to Brian's study. "Putting on a docile act," she said. "I've been so bored lately just sitting around. Could I go to the library and read for a bit?" Brian just stared at her. Rebecca's heart leaped into her throat, terrified he had seen through her plan. After a moment, she heard his cold voice. "Come find me during my lunch break tomorrow. I'll take you." The next day, Brian took Rebecca to the library. But they weren't alone. They had two little shadows following them. The doctor's assistant, in particular, stuck to Rebecca like glue, as if Brian had sent him to watch her. Rebecca's eyes were fixed on a book about healing magic, but she couldn't reach it no matter how high she jumped. Suddenly, a pair of warm, strong hands wrapped around her waist and lifted her up. Rebecca turned and froze when she saw it was Abrumt. "Well, are you going to get it, or do you want me to hold you up here all day?" His words made Rebecca's cheeks flush bright red. She grabbed a random book from the shelf. "I've got it." But Abrumt didn't put her down. "Need me to take you to any other shelves?" Rebecca quickly waved her hands. No, there's a ladder over there." The moment Abrumt set her down, she took off running. The process was a little embarrassing, but she had managed to stick a sleeping spell on him. She then began to chant, and soon Abrumt was slumped over the table, asleep. Suddenly, Rebecca noticed one of the bookshelves looked different from the others. She gave it a gentle push, and a secret door swung open, causing her to lose her balance and fall inside. The noise woke Abrumt, only to see Rebecca had just walked into Brian's secret room by herself. The unexpected fall left Rebecca stunned and in pain on the floor. She looked up and saw Brian's half-smiling face. "What, the entire library isn't enough for you? You had to come here for some extra credit?" Rebecca's mind went blank. "You have to let me explain." "No, wait! I just pushed the bookshelf a little. Is your foot okay?" Before she could finish, Brian bent down and scooped her into his arms. The moment his hand touched her twisted ankle, a sharp pain made her cry out. Outside the secret room, Abrumt's heart clenched. He hesitated, wondering if he should rush in, then heard Rebecca's tearful shout. "Brian, stop!" That was it. Abrumt couldn't take it anymore. He stormed over to the bookshelf and shoved it aside. The entrance to the secret room was wide open, and the sound of footsteps grew louder. He quickly ducked behind a nearby shelf, pretending to read, but his eyes were glued to the entrance. When he saw Brian carrying Rebecca out, her face pale with pain as she curled up in his arms, Abrumt completely lost it. "Stop!" he growled at their retreating backs. Brian slowly turned, a meaningful smile on his face. Abrumt's deep voice stopped Brian. "Sir, I must ask you to stop. It would be improper to be seen like this." Brian whipped his head around, his gaze like daggers. The moment their eyes met, Rebecca could almost smell something burning in the air. "You are currently Princess Lily's fiancé," Abram said, his voice steady but his words precise. To be seen carrying another woman would inevitably lead to gossip. With the late prince's descendants eyeing the throne, I'm sure you wouldn't want to give them any ammunition, would you? His words hit Brian right where it hurt. He let out a cold laugh, surprised that a mere medical assistant could have such a clear grasp of the political situation. Abrumt seized the opportunity and reached out, taking Rebecca from his arms. "We will do everything we can to heal Miss Rebecca's leg." Brian didn't argue further and turned back into the secret room. Rebecca caught a glimpse of the secret door closing, noticing it was opened by Brian's fingerprint. An idea began to form in her mind. "Don't take risks like that again," a man's voice said from above her, a hint of concern in his tone. "If anything else happens, tell me. I can help you." Rebecca was confused. "Why are you helping me?" "Because Abrumt sent me to watch over you," the man said simply. Rebecca's face flushed. "So even before I explained everything in the dream, Abrumt was already looking out for me." She had no idea that the man in the mask was the very person she was thinking of, and that for his own reasons this was the only way he could protect her. Late that night, Abrumt reached out and steadied Rebecca as she dozed off. Her eyes flew open and met his intense gaze. "Good evening, Miss Rebecca," he said, his warm breath on her face. Rebecca was so startled she dropped her book. "Assistant doctor, what are you doing here?" "Making my rounds," he said, a smile in his eyes. "And I happened to find a very studious little hamster." Guessing that Rebecca was reading to find a cure for her mother, Brian brought her all the books he had ever studied. "I hope these will help you. Thank you. You've been a huge help." Rebecca flipped through the pages, all sleepiness gone. Suddenly, she found something incredible, a spell called hypnosis, also known as the soul-guiding technique, which could put a patient into a deep sleep for a set period of time. Reading this, her heart pounded. If I can learn this, maybe I can get Brian's fingerprint without him ever knowing. In the gardens of the Northern Palace, Rebecca whispered the 99th incantation of the hypnosis spell at a rabbit, but the little furball remained as alert as ever. Rebecca instantly began to doubt herself, convinced she had no talent for hypnosis at all. Just as she was about to give up, a man's voice came from behind her. "Miss Rebecca, what are you doing here?" Rebecca froze. She had been practicing for a whole week and couldn't even hypnotize a rabbit. It was so embarrassing. She quickly made an excuse. I was just admiring the scenery." But Abrumt saw right through her. "Are you sure you're not secretly practicing hypnosis? It seems Mr. Rabbit has thrown all your little test subjects out of his house." She expected him to laugh at her, but instead Abrumt offered, "Why don't I be your new test subject?" His words ignited a spark of hope in Rebecca. For the next few days, wherever Abramt was, Rebecca was sure to be found. Her first attempt at hypnotizing him was, unsurprisingly, a failure. She tried again and again, but the result was always the same. "Sleep, sleep, please fall asleep," Rebecca chanted over and over from her hiding spot in the bushes, only to be met with an exasperated sigh from Abramt. "Go back and practice some more." Her repeated failures were starting to wear her down, but she stubbornly refused to give up. Finally, after using up most of her magic, Rebecca managed to make Abramt fall into a deep sleep. The moment she confirmed the hypnosis had worked, she was both thrilled and exhausted. In a daze, she thought she saw a strange black shadow dart out of Abramt's body. When she looked out the window again, everything was calm and peaceful. She dismissed it and, hoping her magic would last longer next time, decided to go to the library to find an older text. After all, making Brian sleep for just 10 minutes wouldn't be nearly enough. Just then, Abramt suddenly woke up. The girl he loved was right in front of him, and he instinctively leaned in closer. He then flinched and pulled back, stammering, "Sorry, I just wanted to check your condition after the hypnosis." Abramt shyly turned his head away and admitted that he had indeed been hypnotized, assuring her that she would soon master the technique for longer periods. Neither of them knew that the mysterious black shadow had already slipped away to a nearby village, and a great danger was slowly beginning to unfold. After over a month of hard training, Rebecca could now successfully hypnotize a target for a full hour. She made a bowl of soup for Brian, who had been working late, as a final test of her skills. Brian looked at her with a half-smile. "You've been quite attentive lately." Rebecca was prepared. She lowered her eyes respectfully. "I'm just repaying your kindness for taking care of my family." Brian, not suspecting anything, drank the soup in one gulp. Rebecca immediately cast the hypnosis spell, and in less than a second, Brian was fast asleep. She successfully collected his fingerprint. Next stop, the library. Using the fingerprint she had acquired, Rebecca successfully opened the door to the secret room. She thought everything was going smoothly, but she hit a snag among the bookshelves. She searched through every book but couldn't find anything related to removing a dragon core or the divine bloodline. The hypnosis was wearing off, and her own energy was running low. Just as she was about to give up, a dusty pile of old books in the corner caught her eye. Among them was a text titled Forbidden Arts, Inner Cores and Primal Forces. Rebecca was ecstatic. She quickly tucked the book away and was about to sneak out when she heard Brian's voice from outside. "Has anyone been to the library tonight?" he asked in a low voice. The guard on duty bowed. "No, Your Majesty, Dragon King." Rebecca panicked and huddled behind a bookshelf, not daring to breathe. But Brian's suspicion was not so easily dispelled. He slowly walked into the secret room, his sharp eyes scanning his surroundings. A meaningful smile touched his lips as he began to walk toward where she was hiding. The shadow of death crept closer. Rebecca squeezed her eyes shut, her heart in her throat. But at that critical moment, the sound of urgent footsteps echoed through the hall. A guard rushed in, reporting frantically, "Your Majesty, there's been a riot in the village just outside the palace. A mysterious, unknown power has attacked, causing heavy casualties, and some of the infected are going mad and attacking others." The sudden crisis successfully diverted Brian's attention. He frowned and ordered, "Take me to the village at once." As Rebecca watched Brian hurry away, she let out a long sigh of relief. But the guard's mention of a mysterious power sent a strange chill down her spine, and a strong sense of foreboding washed over her. The palace was crawling with Brian's spies. No matter how well she hid the ancient text, it would be found sooner or later. Just as she was pacing in a panic, the riot broke out in the village. The order for all medical personnel to assemble immediately became her only chance to escape. She stopped the team of doctors and, claiming she had some experience with healing magic, begged to join their medical team as an assistant. The young assistant agreed without a second thought, but the doctor beside him hesitated, saying they should ask for Brian's permission first. To her surprise, Brian agreed. His unusual behavior sent a shiver down her spine. The moment she arrived at the scene of the riot, Rebecca was frozen with horror. Villagers with severed legs writhed in pools of blood, while others with head injuries screamed for help. The young assistant immediately pulled Rebecca behind him. "It's not safe here yet," he said in a low voice. "Don't leave my sight." Rebecca nodded, trembling, her eyes glued to him. "This will hurt when I clean it, so please bear with me." "Don't worry, I'll bandage you up right now. This is a painkiller. You won't feel anything after you take it." Rebecca worked tirelessly with the medical team from dawn till dusk. She had just managed to catch her breath when she saw a villager go berserk, about to bite one of his companions. The soldiers were in a panic. "Does anyone know healing magic?" "I do." Rebecca stepped forward without hesitation, a faint healing light glowing at her fingertips. No one expected that her newly learned healing magic would instantly suppress the berserker, feat that would normally require 2 or 3 mages. The soldiers gave her a thumbs up in admiration, but the cheers had barely faded when an urgent call for help came from the next section. On one hand, she had promised the assistant she wouldn't wander off. On the other, there were countless injured people waiting for help. Rebecca gritted her teeth. "I'll go with you!" But the deeper she went into the heart of the riot, the more out of control the situation became. Her meager magic reserves were quickly depleted. And then things got even stranger. The infected villagers began to move in unison, as if controlled by an invisible force. And all their crazed eyes were locked onto her. "After me!" Rebecca's heart tightened. In that critical moment, the young assistant appeared by her side. Rebecca apologized to the young assistant, her face full of guilt. She quietly explained that she hadn't thought things through and had caused trouble. The assistant was silent for a moment, then simply said, "Don't let it happen again," before gently patting her head. But the tender moment was shattered when a dark monster leaped from the shadows. The assistant reacted instantly, shoving Rebecca out of the way and telling her to hide. Before she could even process what was happening, the assistant had transformed into Abrampt. A burst of purple light erupted from him, and the monster shrieked in terror under the force of his power. Staring at the familiar figure before her, Rebecca finally understood. The assistant who had been by her side all along was Abrampt, who had kept his promise and come for her. In the heat of the battle, Abrampt let his guard down for a moment, and the monster's dark energy tried to invade his body. Seeing this, Rebecca rushed forward, shouting for him to get out of the way. She insisted she wanted to fight by his side, not just hide behind him. But Abrampt explained that her healing magic could only dispel the dark energy, not destroy it completely. If they didn't eradicate it at its source, the monsters would spread and harm more people. With that, he summoned a crimson light in his palm and instantly annihilated all the monsters. Rebecca watched his back and asked softly, "Is there a way to destroy the monsters for good?" Abrampt turned and confirmed there was. He recalled his father's words. When healing magic is mastered to its peak, it possesses immense destructive power, capable of cleansing not just these mysterious forces, but all the evil spirits in the world. His words were a revelation for Rebecca. Abrampt was familiar with these forces, and when she pressed him, he finally admitted that the dark energy originated from the evil god within him. This recent loss of control was due to a lapse in his concentration. He took all the blame, not wanting Rebecca to feel even a shred of guilt. Hearing this, Rebecca couldn't help but cry, her heart aching for all the years he had endured this burden alone. But Abrampt took her hand and said that now that he had her, they could fix their mistakes together. Moved by his words, Rebecca's eyes filled with determination. She vowed to practice her healing magic even harder, to one day bring peace back to the world. Their bond grew stronger, woven from threads of darkness and tenderness. Little did they know the Dragon King was watching from the shadows. He had already figured out that the assistant was the Demon King, and that the attacks on the village were connected to him. After defeating the monsters, Rebecca immediately began treating the injured villagers. Abrampt confessed that he was staying in the palace because he was worried Brian would cause trouble with the inner core, and this was the only way he could protect her up close. Rebecca readily agreed. She wanted to get her parents out of the palace first, to prevent Brian from using them as leverage, and had already planned the perfect escape route. According to the soldiers, the river in the village originated from within the Northern King's palace. In the secret library of the Northern Palace, a cold glint appeared in Brian's eyes. So she took the text on how to remove the dragon core and divine bloodline. It had all been a part of his plan. He had deliberately shown Rebecca how to get into the secret room, played along with her hypnosis, and let her take his fingerprint, all while waiting for her to successfully remove the dragon core and divine bloodline. That would be the day he would finally defeat Abrampt and restore the glory of the winged dragons. Meanwhile, under a wisteria trellis, Rebecca frowned at the yellowed pages of the ancient text. It described 2 methods of removal. One was brutally cruel. Forcibly removing the dragon core and divine bloodline would kill the host. The other was gentler, but required cultivating a primal force stronger than both the dragon core and the divine bloodline. In other words, her choices were to die or to become stronger. Just as she was falling into despair, Abrampt appeared quietly behind her. Seeing her red-rimmed eyes, a playful smile touched his lips. "This isn't the little hamster I know." Rebecca looked up, puffing out her cheeks and accusing him of gloating, only to feel her ears turn red when he saw right through her worries. "You don't have to worry so much." Abrampt's voice softened, his fingertips gently brushing her hair. "You were born with the ability to remove the dragon core and divine bloodline. You just need to master your healing magic to its highest level, and you'll awaken a world-destroying primal force." Rebecca froze, her heart pounding as she looked into his serious eyes. "Really?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Of course." Abramt leaned in closer, his warm breath tickling her ear. "Our little hamster is going to be the most powerful healing mage in the world." Rebecca's cheeks flushed crimson. "Thank you, Abramt. I'll do my best." Half a month later, the royal city was suddenly attacked by a dark force. The remnants of the dark energy had developed a consciousness of their own, and were far more dangerous than Brian had anticipated. Rebecca offered to go to the front lines to treat the wounded, but Brian stopped her with a grim expression. "It's too dangerous out there. You're staying in the palace." Rebecca stubbornly began to chant a spell, and in less than a second, the wound on the reporting soldier's arm had healed. "How about now?" she asked, her eyes shining with determination. "My healing magic is far more powerful than any of the mages you've gathered." Seeing this, Brian finally relented, but as she turned to leave, he warned in a low voice, "If you try anything, you know what the backlash from the Dragon Corps will do." Rebecca paused but didn't look back. She made a silent vow to herself. This time she would not back down. She would protect the people she loved,